We are live.
All right, we'll call to order the February 9th, 2022 Planning Board meeting. We've established a quorum. Our 7-member board, we have 5 members present.
Matt, excuse me, you may want to wait and let the folks join the meeting. They're still trickling in from the waiting room, I mean, yeah. Like maybe just one more. Right on time, Steve Hart.
Are we good now?
I think, yeah, there's one. Yeah, you're good. You're good.
All right, we'll call to order the February 9th, 2022 Planning Board meeting. We're a 7-member board. We have five members present, so we've established a quorum.
Yeah.
I guess rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America.
United States of America, and to the republic,
which it stands,
one
one
nation,
nation,
under
under
God,
God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
liberty,
liberty and justice for all.
Being that this is a virtual meeting, we're going to start the meeting by reading the virtual meetings policy. This is updated on January 13, 2021. Ground rules for town officials. The ranking board member shall read aloud the following information after calling a virtual public meeting to order, but prior to conducting business. 1, this meeting is being conducted remotely pursuant to Executive Order 202.1 and related federal, state, and local guidance related to COVID-19 virus. Members, staff, and applicants are participating in a virtual meeting via Zoom. This virtual meeting is being broadcast live on the town's YouTube channel, is being recorded, and will be later transcribed in accordance with Executive Order 202.1. For those participating tonight, please note there may be a 30-second delay between this meeting and the YouTube broadcast. Board members, staff, and other participants are requested to mute themselves when not speaking to reduce interference. Applicants will be placed on mute until their item is up for consideration. Applicants are free to remain in the meeting on mute after their item is complete, or they may leave. Allison Lovely of the Planning and Zoning Department, Zoom meeting host, and will admit participants, mute, unmute participants, monitor the chat box, and working with me, generally manage the meeting. Text placed in the chat box will be read aloud or otherwise addressed by Anna or Adam and myself during the course of the meeting. During the course of the meeting, in order to keep the broadcast and discussion clear, I will call on members to offer comments during discussion of agenda items. Members may also request to speak via the chat box. Finally, members can unmute themselves to offer a comment if urgent and as needed, but are encouraged to wait until they are called upon. The ranking board member shall read aloud the following information after calling a virtual public hearing hearing to order, but before beginning to accept public comment. The public hearing notice used should generally follow the format of the town's template public hearings notice. It should inform those calling in voice-only participants that they may experience a brief silent wait or hold period to being admitted to the hearing. The meeting should generally be.
I can't hear anybody else.
The meeting should generally be configured according to the most recent version of the town's virtual meetings policy. The meeting host will admit all participants from the waiting room at the time stated by the public hearing notice. Participants will be muted upon entry, and only the host can unmute participants. The host should unmute town officials upon entry, however. Instruct participants that a list of those wishing to offer public comment speakers will be generated to organize public comment. Participants will be placed on mute until their turn to speak. Speaking would normally be limited to between 3 to 5 minutes or as otherwise determined by the ranking member. Participants should be instructed that once each speaker has finished their remarks, they will be placed on mute again. Their video may remain active or may be disabled. Participants can also offer comment by typing their comments into the chat box. The chat box will be visible to meeting hosts and will be read into the record. Disruptive participants will be removed permanently from the meeting at the discretion of the ranking member. Once the virtual meeting ground rules have been set forth, the ranking member shall read aloud the public hearing notice. This notice should explicitly state that this virtual public hearing is being conducted pursuant to requirements set forth in New York State law and Executive Order 202.1. If it does not, the ranking member should restate it for the record. The ranking member and board will decide whether to keep the public hearing open after it is adjourned. If it is so decided, the public should be informed that they can submit written comments in the interim. Okay, so we'll jump into it. We have two public hearings. And we will begin with Carver Court, Upper Mannix Road, major 110 lot subdivision.
All right, I can hear.
John, you can hear us?
I can hear you now. Yeah.
Okay. So we'll begin by reading the notice of public hearing. Please take notice that the planning board of the town of East Greenbush will hold a public hearing on February 9th, 2022, beginning at 7 p.m. to consider the following matter. The town of East Greenbush Planning Board shall conduct a public hearing on the preliminary plat pursuant to section 276 of the town law and town's land subdivision regulations on the application of CDLZ Inc. for a major 110 lot cluster subdivision called the Carver Court Major 110 lot cluster subdivision. The property is located off of Upper Mannix Road in the RB Residential Buffer Zoning District. Tax map numbers 155.5-4 and 145.1-21. Said public hearing will be held on Wednesday, February 9th, 2022 at 7 p.m. remotely via Zoom. At the above time and place, all interested parties will be given an opportunity to be heard by order of the planning board. Pursuant to the New York State First Law of 2022 and advisories issued by federal, state, and local officials related to COVID-19 virus, the planning board will convene its February 9, 2022 board meeting remotely as follows. Public hearing will commence at 7 p.m. and shall be conducted through the use of Zoom, a web-based video conferencing tool with local and desktop client and smartphone applications that will allow board members and the public to participate electronically and remotely by audio and with or without video connection. The meeting will also be live streamed on the town's YouTube channel. To access the board's public hearing, has several options. Go to www.zoom.us and download the free application. Enter 881-6212-6943 as the join meeting invitation code. Call 646-876-9923 with your phone and then enter meeting ID 881-6212-6943. View the live stream, go to the town's YouTube channel, which you can access from the town's website. Please note that this public hearing will be conducted remotely only and will not be held at town hall. Please be patient upon joining the meeting. You'll be provided instructions on how to deliver your comments once in the meeting. Pursuant to Executive Order number 202.1, this meeting will be recorded and transcribed and posted to the town's website. Written comment may be submitted to the planning board via email to alovely@eastgreenbush.org or to the planning board, town of East Greenbush, 225 Columbia Turnpike, Rensselaer, New York, 12144, at any time prior to the meeting. By order of the planning board, February 2nd, 2022, Matt Maston, chairman. So if the applicant can start by giving us a brief presentation on the project.
Yes, good evening. My name is Brett Steenberg. I'm here to present the Carver Court subdivision, cluster subdivision. The parcel is located along Upper Mannix Road and also abuts Thompson Hill Road and is 89.99 acres in size. As stated previously, located in the commercial residential buffer zone. It's proposed to develop the parcel as a cluster subdivision to help preserve large tracts of open space and wooded areas on the site for help in preservation of the environmental concerns. It's proposed to develop 110 residential building lots. The lots will consist of 60 townhomes, 36 cottage lots, and 14 estate lots. After completion of the development, there will be 46.8 acres of open space, the majority of which is usable open space as deemed by code, totaling 35.6 acres, meeting the requirements for the open space for a cluster subdivision. We've been able to minimize the wetland impacts to 0.194 acres. The wetland impacts will be mitigated on site, and a mitigation plan has been prepared and submitted to the Army Corps of Engineers for their approval. It's proposed to develop the lots on 6,000, just over 6,000 lineal feet of Newtown Road, which will be constructed through the subject parcel. There will be an emergency only access connected to Thompson Hill Road. This will be the only direct access to Thompson Hill Road other than constructing the utilities, which both water and sewer will connect into the existing utilities on Thompson Hill. but the emergency access will be gated. It will consist of 3 surface types, just a standard crusher run surface through the center portion, followed by nearing the end in the site and nearing the end out towards Thompson Hill, a grass block paver to basically make that, make it to decrease the appearance of that emergency access road even being in place. It's perfectly safe for emergency vehicles to drive over that grass block paver, but it gives you, it takes away that appearance of that road going through and off of Thompson Hill to the proposed subdivision. And then out near Thompson Hill, there will be a paved section. The purpose of that paved section is to provide for the existing driveway and easement for the resident, which is currently utilizing that right of way for their driveway. And we provided a detail to the town and TDE on the plan, showing areas that will be striped off in signage to prevent the resident from parking there and impeding the any emergency vehicles that needed to cross over the emergency access road.
Right.
And
interrupt. Does someone have a drawing that we can pull up on the screen rather than?
I do, if you want me to share my screen.
Yeah, that'd be helpful. Probably better than everyone looking at each other.
I didn't know if we could do that.
Thanks.
Can everybody see that okay? So this is the emergency access road here. And this front portion, we've provided a detail down here showing the area that's going to be striped, an area reserved for parking for this resident along Thompson Hill Road, who is currently utilizing this area as a portion of their driveway. There also will be a cleared park land area near the rear of the site, located here, of approximately 1.75 acres. There will also be walking trails, which will connect this open space area to both of these 2 cul-de-sacs, so that residents along these cul-de-sacs can, walk along the walking trails rather than walking along the road to get to the cleared parkland and open space area. All of this was reviewed through the Conservation Advisory Council during the review process to look at areas that were best suited for this type of use. And given the type of vegetation, they felt that this was a good area for the cleared parkland area for the neighborhood use. Sidewalks will be constructed from Upper Mannix Road along what's known as Road 1 to the mailbox kiosk located here. They will also be constructed along Road 2, which will provide access to future development to the north of this site for pedestrians. We anticipate that we're not sure which property will be developed first, but I know this one has had proposals on it in the past. And we do have a right-of-way shown here for the future extension of this road, as well as a right-of-way shown for a future extension of this road for future developments to the north of this site. Stormwater will be managed on the parcels, on the parcel via several stormwater management areas. One large bio retention filter located here with an attenuation basin, a large dry swell type system with an attenuation basin located here, and then a couple of mixed systems with either dry swell or bio retention filters located to the east of the entrance road down here. All of those stormwater management areas will be turned over to the town, fenced with access roads constructed to them for maintenance. They will be turned over to the town because the majority of the stormwater entering those basins is a result of the road infrastructure, the stormwater infrastructure within the roadways. So there's minimal lot drainage directly into those stormwater management areas. Each one of these stormwater management areas have been designed in accordance with the New York State Stormwater Design Manual, and will be and have been reviewed by the town designated engineer throughout the design process. Water will be connected to Thompson Hill Road, the existing 30-inch main located along Thompson Hill Road. There'll be a 12-inch main, which will run through the site, as I'm showing here, and basically service the upper portion of the site here. 8-inch mains will service the termination of this cul-de-sac, as well as looping down and connecting to the existing main in Tech Valley and between Tech Valley and Upper Mannix Road, thus looping the system as requested by the town. The sewer system was pretty much the bulk of the last couple of months of design work on this site, and we worked closely with the town as well as reviewing H2M and the T-bond report, which were prepared for the town for the 3rd Avenue pump station and Barracks Road pump station for Regeneron. We did do a complete downstream analysis from our site to the 3rd Avenue pump station. From the 3rd Avenue pump station downstream, we relied on some of the documentation provided in those 2 reports previously stated to help us determine what, if any, infrastructure will need to be replaced upon completion of the improvements that Regeneron is currently proposing to both the 3rd Avenue and Barracks Road pump stations. We did find some inconsistencies between the reports. So in order to resolve those issues, we actually went out and measured some pipes, took a look at some of the various values, coordinated with DEC. And through that process, we've prepared an engineering report involving the downstream analysis, and the engineering report is recommending that in order to develop Carver Court, we will be required to replace 6 sections of pipe downstream from the 3rd Avenue and Barracks Road pump stations, totaling just over 2,000 lineal foot of pipe. And I should note that those replacements aren't leaving the system at its maximum capacity. The town has asked us to allow for 100 gallon per minute reserve in the system. So those pipe replacements are in effect in order to achieve that 100 gallon per minute reserve capacity, which is not something that is required either under 10 state standards or the New York State DEC intermediate design standards. However, it's something that the town has desired for us to provide, which we are doing. And that 100% reserve capacity is actually at the pipes flowing 80% full. So there's actually still reserve, which is what DEC's requirement is, that you can't design the system to 100% capacity of the pipes. You have to design it to 80% capacity of the pipes. So there will be reserve capacity downstream after the proposed improvements. The sanitary sewer on site will be full gravity sewer to a low point located right about where my cursor is here, near the stormwater management system on the west side of the main entrance road, where we'll enter a pump station. It'll be the standard Gorman-Rupp pump station, suction lift pump station that the town typically uses, and it will pump the effluent basically up along Road 1, Road 2, and through the emergency access and into the gravity sanitary sewer on Thompson Hill Road. We've spoken with Bonnie Starr at DEC several times over the course of these iterations and this design. Although she has not formally reviewed the engineering document, we did go over with her very closely our methodology each step of the way with what we were proposing for various figures, numbers, coefficients, as well as actually going out and determining the pipe sizes, because there was some variation in the various engineering reports. And you know, she basically concurred with our methodology and felt that although she hasn't completed her final review, felt that we were in pretty good shape if what I was telling her was true on what we had done and the values we used. The last meeting, we received a conditional seeker negative declaration. We're here this evening to review the preliminary plat submission. And we did receive a comment letter on Friday afternoon from the town designated engineer, CPL, and have gone through the comments. All the comments are mostly just housekeeping comments, cleaning up notes, adjusting line types to make the plans a little more readable, changing some of the nomenclature with regard to the stormwater management basins, things like that. And at the close of their letter, they did recommend that the preliminary plat be accepted by the town of East Greenbush. And during the last meeting, during the seeker negative declaration, there were some issues raised regarding and questions raised regarding the traffic on Upper Thompson Hill Road. And with us this evening is Alana Moran from VHB, who is the traffic consultant for this project. And I would like to, at this point, turn it over to her to discuss some of the traffic concerns and issues that were raised, even as recently as this evening via an email we received. I don't know if you have to unmute.
Right. Yes, okay. I'm all unmuted. Thank you, Brett. Okay. Again, Alana Moran with VHB. We completed the traffic evaluation for the proposed project. As Brett had mentioned, one of the primary things that has come up within the review, more concerns by residents, is the potential for cut-through traffic on Thompson Hill Road from the potential trips to and from the site. Although this has been considered an existing issue for the community, for residents of this site, there's really very little reason for them to actually come out, turn right onto Thompson Hill Road as opposed to going to Route 4 and the roundabout there with good operations. However, as part of responding to those particular concerns, we did put together a couple of options for the town to consider as far as potential to restrict site-related traffic onto Thompson Hill Road. One of those would be to restrict right turn movements from westbound Upper Mannix Road onto Thompson Hill Road. And then the second would be to install speed humps on Thompson Hill Road. Another concern was brought to our attention earlier regarding possibly placing a physical restriction at the southern intersection of Thompson Hill Road with Upper Mannix Road to physically restrict right turns onto the roadway itself. The concern with providing that physical restriction, like a bump out type of thing that you might see at, say, a right in, right out driveway, you'll see kind of what's called a pork chop sometimes, where a vehicle is specifically channelized to make a particular movement. Those channelizations are typically done, in fact, almost always done for left turn maneuvers as opposed to right turn maneuvers, because if you put that physical restriction in place for a right turn maneuver, it's also going to restrict your left turn movement. So if that right turn is physically restricted, it will also end up restricting a left turn onto Thompson Hill Road at that southern intersection. The other thing that, but of course, the choice to whether install speed humps or install a sign on the Upper Mannix approach to Thompson Hill Road would really be at the purview of the town as to whether they would want to see one of those things happen on the roadway itself. The other item that Brett discussed was really an email that had been received from a resident along Thompson Hill Road with several questions regarding the methodologies of the traffic study itself. I can go through each one of these point by point. I don't know that that's what you want to do with your time at this point, but I think that the biggest thing here to say is that the traffic study was completed using industry standards and methodologies, so consistent with industry practice. The traffic data, or the data that was mentioned in this email, is really specific to New York State traffic data collection. So it's not necessarily what's used in a traffic study. Instead, it's what's used by the DOT in order to document traffic volumes on roadways in the state itself. So it doesn't, for a traffic study, it doesn't follow the same process that would be done for just traffic volume data collection. It's a different process and procedure. Again, I can go through each of these, but it might be simplest just to continue on and see if the board has any questions.
Can you just answer what the difference is? But there was one question about the 2017 manual versus the 2021 manual.
Yeah, sure. So when we completed this study in April, it was the trip generation manual was in the 10th edition. And in September, the 11th edition of the trip generation manual came out. So I ran some numbers just to double check what the difference might be in trip generation. And for the 110 single family units proposed for the site, the study I included 83 trips during the morning peak hour and 111 during the PM peak hour. If we use the data contained in the 11th edition, that trips would actually go down just a little bit. So it would be 81 trips during the morning peak hour and 109 during the PM peak hour. So it's very, very close.
Thank you.
Sure.
Okay, so we'll, I guess we'll get into board member questions first, and then we'll get to the public. I'll go first. Brett, where'd the rest of the sidewalks go? This is new to me that they stop where they stop. I thought they went all the way up Road 1. And then
We initially had them up Road 1 when we were working through the off-site sewer improvements and the cost necessary to make some of these improvements, particularly to attain the 100 gallons per minute. We did talk with Adam, with CPL, and with the supervisor about possibly going up Road 2 rather than up to the end of Road 1. For a couple of reasons. One is a cost savings. The other reason is that there's less impact and less widening on the wetland areas, which allows for a little bit easier crossing there within those wetland areas where you've got those steep banks down to the wetlands, and less driveway crossings.
So it really came down to cost. I mean,
A little bit of both.
We talked before when it went all the way up Road 1, and at a meeting we asked if you went all the way up Road 1, why were the roads to the right left out? And I think at that point you said something to do with traffic numbers. So I personally like to see the sidewalk all the way up Road 1. Let's get into board members. We'll start with Chris Horn.
Not for now.
You're good for now?
Yep.
Noreen?
I like the sidewalks too. I think that is consistent with our, vision for our town to have complete streets. So I was concerned about that too.
Okay. Anything else?
Yep, Matt, Chris again, sorry. I should have said I agree with your comment about the sidewalks as well. And I guess I'm also still a little bit confused just about so there's going to be, there's no speed bumps being recommended now?
On Thompson Hill?
Yeah.
Brett, can you answer that?
We actually proposed in our letter, speed bumps and or a right turn, no right turn sign on Upper Mannix that we would be proposing as part of traffic mitigation. However, that is subject to DPW's review and the town's review for implementation, since this is an existing town road.
Okay, thanks.
Don Panton?
Yes, I heard. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. When Brett was talking, he's talking to sewer water. It was parts of the area that's going to be pumped up, and then it's going to flow naturally down where it gets near Thompson Hill. My question is, are any of the residents going to have to have grinders?
No, there's no grinders proposed.
So you're just
there's gravity to a pump station located here, and it'll be all the proposed houses will have gravity sewers, gravity laterals to that gravity sewer, and then from that pump station up will be the pressure sewer.
How many
no connection?
How many pump stations you going to have again?
One.
And then it's going to pump it to almost to Thompson Hill, and then it's going to flow naturally, right?
Naturally downhill to the 3rd Avenue pump station.
Okay, I was wondering if there's going to be any grinders. Okay, that's my question.
No grinders.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Don. Kurt?
I did have a couple of questions. Let's see. Now, in the traffic study of it was an opinion that you don't see any reason why anyone would cut through there over the hill. Okay. Was there a traffic study taken of people cutting through on Thompson Hill Road?
We did not include an analysis of Thompson Hill Road. The trip generation for the site is such that we didn't need to, it didn't warrant analysis of any offsite locations.
Okay, but personal observation, it does take place now. People going from like Walmart's to avoid the circle will do that, okay? Just like people coming from Carver Court, coming down, people like to avoid, if they can, a roundabout, and they'll take that right as they do now from Mannix Road to Thompson Hill Road and then to Walmart's, and the other way around too. And when the traffic backs up, Waze will send people the shortcut, which is through there. Assuming or seeing no reason why anybody would do it is against what currently takes place, is for one thing. And then some of the other things that, along the lines of the study, is there's future development plan for the northern parts of the site that potential connecting to. Shouldn't that be included in a study of some sort, or at least have some weight to traffic overall?
The traffic study was really completed based upon the proposed site plan. We are not aware of any other developments or any other potential growth within this particular project.
Right, not in this project, right, but in the future, there is those connect through roads, which will then lead traffic to Mannix Road and so on.
Which is certainly good planning and good design to have those connecting roadways. But we do contact the town to learn of any other pending projects that are in front of the planning board or in front of the town, to make sure that we include those in the analysis so that it's anything that's essentially on the books that would be included in the study itself.
Right, but as our planning board, our charter is to look farther than that, not just a year or two. It's 5 and 10 years down the road. So, that's part of our charter, is to look farther down the road. And then I won't go into some of the details on that email that was forwarded about some of the assumptions associated with this and so on. But I still have quite a bit of concern that speed bumps or signs aren't going to stop the traffic there. I did have a discussion with the town's Commissioner of Public Works regarding other alternatives, and he was amenable to perhaps a cul-de-sac or turnaround, making the Thompson Hill Road a dead-end road, basically, just past the mansion, which is on the north side of it, going down there. So that also may be an option too, to stop this, which is an engineered solution as opposed to signs and so on.
Yeah, and it's certainly up to the town to determine what they would like to do with their roadways.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thanks, Kurt. John Conway?
I have a couple of questions, and while we were talking about traffic, I wonder if you could just address the issue that was brought up in the letter today about the survey being based, or parts of the survey being based on a one-day survey in February of 2021.
Sure. So one of the things that we do is, as a matter of course, for any particular traffic study, is go out and collect traffic volume data. Certainly the last couple of years have been odd for all of us, and those have, that impact does include travel patterns. So what we were using the traffic volume data for, that not so much the traffic volume as the travel speed data. The data that we wanted to get here was not a matter of how many vehicles are on the roadway. We provided that information for context and noted within the report that because it is, the data was collected during that, during the COVID time period when travel was definitely much lower, then what we actually wanted was the travel speed data so that we could do our site distance evaluation and base that on actual travel speeds. You'll note in the study that the posted speed limit is 30 miles per hour, but the 85th percentile travel speed was around 45, 50 miles per hour. So that was really the part that we wanted to get, was the travel speed data. And yes, when you're doing the data collection for something like that, it's very typical to do one day of data as opposed to having a counter out for a week or more.
And my other question was on what they're calling encroachments in item 20 of the CPL letter, the swimming pool and sheds that are on the far end of the property, the northeast, I guess, end of the property.
In this area here.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, there's several encroachments onto the parcel. I know the applicant and owner has, I believe they've reached out to the property owners regarding removing those encroachments. And then, that becomes a legal matter between the owner of the property and the property owners along that route. Doesn't affect anything as far as the site design, just that there are existing encroachments there.
I may speak. This is Donald Z. Prior to the developer's purchase of the property, we had, as part of the transaction of purchasing the property, the previous owner notified all of the parties, adjoining property owners, which had encroachments, and worked out an agreement whereby they were given a license to maintain their encroachments onto the property. So there was an acknowledgement and there was permission granted with regard to keeping the encroachments in place, because as we had indicated on a variety of times, that we did not perceive any development occurring in those areas, and it would be part of the homeowners association. So they do not really affect any single family building lots. They do not affect any of the utility areas that would be dedicated to the town. The only area that we had worked out and spoken to the adjoining properties is where Brett Steenberg had indicated during the emergency access area. We've spoken to the property owner, which had used some of the area for its driveway, and we've worked out an arrangement where we will, in fact, make sure that he has access to his property with an adequate parking area and driveway, and it would not inhibit the emergency access. So those things have been worked out with the adjoining property owners.
Okay, and those licenses are still in effect?
Yes, they are.
Is there a time period on that where they might expire? Or?
No, in some respects, we were thinking about making the permanent. We had spoken to some adjoining property owners because, as you may recall, we had talked about potentially offering to those adjoining property owners land, arguably a lot line adjustment. We didn't want to finalize any of that until we knew what the final configuration of the subdivision was, the open space. And as I know the town planning staff and the engineering staff had raised concern about, and I think the chairman had as well, was making sure that we had the requisite number of percentage of open space and everything. And if we had deeded away some of the open space, we didn't want to do that until we knew all the numbers. So as Brett had indicated, if we were able to get the approvals pretty much with this plan layout, we would have some excess open space. And there would be a possibility of the HOA in some point in time in the future coming forward to talk about doing lot line adjustments. Or we would speak to the planning staff as to what they thought would be most appropriate. But we don't see any reason to terminate any of the licenses. And in fact, as I said, we hope maybe we can work something out to deed them the land so that they are no longer encumbrances.
All right, thank you. I'm good.
All right. Adam, before we get into the public, can you just explain where we are in process as far as the preliminary plat and what would follow here?
Yeah, thank you, Matt. As I believe was mentioned by the developer, we did do, so there was a conditioned neg deck issued, approved by this board last meeting on the 26th. So that was the most recent procedural step that was required in order to have a valid public hearing tonight. We did have a public hearing previously, but we needed to close seeker in accordance with New York state law for that public hearing to be valid. So that's why we're back here tonight for a second public hearing on this. The only other action aside from seeker doing lead agency coordination and some of that stuff, the planning board, and I'm trying to remember, I want to say it was about a year ago, did approve the cluster plan for sketch plan conditionally for the project. And so what that did was essentially allow the developer to access the incentive zoning and use the cluster provisions of the town and the state law to adjust the lot lines and lot area and bulk standards. That was predicated on a conventional subdivision that could be approved for this site, showing 110 lots. That's where the 110 lot density came from. So tonight, that's the public hearing. The next thing is the preliminary plat. As the developer mentioned, there's an application in front of the planning board, which was submitted, I believe it was on the 26th, for preliminary plat approval. And we have a preliminary plat approval draft resolution in front of the board for your consideration tonight. One of the things that's part of the preliminary plat approval package is a development agreement that is currently in a fairly early but starting to get tightened up draft form that would essentially be between the developer and the town board, setting forth the framework for how this development will unfold. I'm not sure if the developer mentioned in their presentation, but one of the keys to this is that it will be developed in sections. There'll be 3 sections. There's a provision of the town and the state law that allows the developer to do that without coming back to the planning board for full planning board for approval. They would rely on this preliminary plat. So that's one of the other key things that the preliminary plat does, is it sets forth the framework, the key plan for future phase by or section by section development. And that's another key part of why there's a development agreement, because this development will take place over a number of years. And so that development agreement would set forth based upon the planning board's review and approval, the framework for how this is going to be developed. There's one more procedural action at the town board level, aside from the development agreement, that would need to take place. And that's to extend to about a 15-acre portion that the developer, a portion of which they expanded. I think they always owned it, out to Mannix Road, for the water and sewer districts. They just need to be extended to cover, I believe it'll be like six future, customers of those two districts.
All right. Thank you very much.
Welcome.
All right, Allison, can we get into members of the public?
Can I ask one more question, Matt?
Yep. Absolutely.
Okay, thank you. This is regard to the traffic study again. And so as I understand, the traffic study was meant more as to collect data on speed and line of sight for the entrance. Is that what I understood from the
That
presentation?
was, excuse me, that was basically what the point of the ATR was to get the speed data in front of the site.
Okay, so not and then did I also see in there was an assumption that 34% of the traffic heads east on Mannix Road? Was that also in there?
Yeah, so based upon the data, all right, it's the ATR data, the volume data did show that roughly 35% of the traffic would travel to and from the east, 65% would travel to and from the west during those peak periods.
Okay. And I guess I would, this would be, again, opinion, I don't have the data, but if people are living there, I would assume they would be traveling to work, which would be the western part. So it would be much higher volume as opposed to people going to Averill Park or Nassau or something through that way to go to work. So I don't know that where the 34% or 35%, but I would question that for this development and say that the majority of the people are going to go to work and head the other direction, which is where the majority of the the employment is.
Right,
Kurt,
which is why we are having 65% traveling to and from the west, which is the majority of the site-related traffic.
Yeah, I would guess probably even higher than that, or closer to an 80, but okay, all right, good. And okay, thank you. That was my questions.
Sure.
Yeah, Kurt, I wonder if some of that accounts for people taking the DeFriesville exit to get on 90.
Right, true, yeah. Well,
Okay.
you wouldn't go that way, but you wouldn't go Mannix Road. Well, not necessarily, because that's a very windy road. It would seem easier to get on the I-90 right at the Route 4. That's a much windier, turny road, that Mannix Road, and then to Best Road.
Yeah, I was just thinking out loud. Okay, so we're gonna get to members of the public. Bear with us if you'd like to speak. Allison, how do they do so?
I was gonna go person to person and unmute and see if they have comments.
That works. So why don't we get that going?
David Turpinning, do you have any comments?
Allison, he did have a comment. He chatted. I believe everybody received that. I'll
Yeah,
just,
not a fan of these large developments. Heard at the town board meeting that there appears to be a 500 unit possible PDD project coming down the pike. Hope I heard this wrong. Is this what Mr. Bergman was referring to? I'm not personally familiar with a 500 unit PDD. I think, Kurt, you were just referring to, is there any future development in the works, right?
Right. Well, I know there's not in the works, but I know sometime in the future there would be development in that area. I would make that assumption. And with that in those development, those connecting points would then be connected to that new development. And again, more traffic on Mannix Road.
But Mr. Turpinning, I'm not familiar with any project of that size that's in the works. Allison, next.
Guest GSNENY, do you have any comments?
All right.
iPhone guest, do you have any comments?
Can you open him up under Jennifer Bergman Jenkins?
You should be able to speak.
Okay, you got me?
Yes.
Hi, this is Dwight Jenkins. I sent the email out. I'm not comfortable at all with what Alana had to say about the traffic study being done in accordance with industry standards and methodology. At this point, the town planning board is essentially allowing the engineer for the developer to tell us that traffic is fine, even though we don't have anything from Department of Transportation saying that traffic is fine. This is unusual. We have in the submission a statement from the historic sites people from the state saying there's nothing to worry about. You know, typically you get Army Corps of Engineers regarding wetlands, but there's no sign off from DOT on this. And I know that it's important to the project because the engineer references it in this report. So this threshold of 100 vehicles is something that the developer, I'm sure, would like to stay under so that they don't have to get additional DOT involvement.
Dwight, this is Adam Yagelski, if I may interrupt you.
Yeah, sure.
I want to note that we did actually receive, it's just not posted to the website, and that's an error on our part. A concurrence on the traffic study from Region 1, the regional traffic, the traffic and safety, regional permit engineer, Guy Tedesco. He sent that concurrence. So let me share the screen, Dwight, just so everybody can see this. So what he sent was, he concurred with the methodology, estimates, distribution percentages. So we do have that, and we did coordinate with the seeker review with DOT. So what we'll do, Dwight, is we'll make this a part of the record that's available online. And I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, that would have saved me a few hours. Thanks. Because I had to do that research myself because I noticed it was not there. So let's not do that again. All right, a few other things. As far as no through traffic, both ends of the road would be appropriate sightings for no through traffic signage because they come from both ends. The engineer has stated that there seems to be no reason for anybody to use Thompson Hill, but I think what she's failing to take into consideration is human nature. A 30-second delay at that traffic circle on a Friday seems like forever. I've lived here 25 years. I know what I'm talking about. As far as the cul-de-sac, planning board, the town board already approved a cul-de-sac for the casino project several years ago. It's on the record. So apparently the town does not have a problem in theory with a cul-de-sac for Thompson Hill Road. So if the residents want it, I think the residents should get it. Um, the town's comprehensive plan, the vision statement and all that, talks about in section 6, neighborhoods, the importance of preserving and enhancing the character of existing neighborhoods. This is an existing neighborhood. This falls under that section of the big picture plan for the town of East Greenbush. I can tell you the residents don't feel like we're being preserved or enhanced by this project. And I'm not against this project. I think it's a good project. I've spent hours looking at the stuff. I don't really find anything, that bothers me too much about it, other than this traffic study. And I still don't agree. But if DOT signed off on it, it is what it is. But the project is, it's appropriate for the site, it seems. The numbers are in compliance. So that's not my thing. It's not like I'm fighting the casino, not at all. I just want to make sure that this traffic thing is nailed down. You guys know that that what the engineer has provided is in fact the case. And I would agree with Kurt Bergman on this. The 65-35 percentage, that's based on existing traffic. That's not even taken into consideration the fact that, the people coming westward in the morning, they're going to work. In many cases, they're going to work at the tech park, or they're getting on the interstate or going to Albany. The people who are going to be living in those 110 homes, they're already there. They don't need to go east. They got nothing to go east for in the morning. They're going to be going west. They're going to be heading to that traffic circle. And I don't think that's been appropriately considered. And I think Thompson Hill does need a baseline traffic count. I think that might put a lot of questions or issues to rest. If you guys have a firm idea of how much traffic we actually do have, you'll know better how to plan for it. And I think that is everything. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And Dwight, we did immediately get your letter out to the engineers when it came in today.
Yeah, I saw that. I appreciate it. And I intentionally got that out early because I wanted you guys to have an opportunity to address it or think about it instead of trying to do it on the spot.
Yeah, your analysis was over my head, so I had to go somewhere else. I couldn't answer those questions. Thank you very much.
Justin, do you have any comments?
I do have a few questions, and my wife and I, we just moved in last December, so I don't know if I'm out of place and how far along in the process this is. This is our first time learning about this. So I hope I don't overstep and ask too many questions that's been answered in the past. They said so we live at 47 Mannix Road. We are the property that is just west of the entrance to this Carver Court complex. So all of the traffic to and from the complex will be going past our house. And one of my concerns is we have a lot of blind hills between where the entrance to Carver Court is and Route 4. The road is, I would say, considerably more of a country road, narrow width. And I believe it was Alana or Elena. Hopefully I pronounced your name right. She said that the posted speed limit is 30. Their study said everybody was going average 45, 50 miles an hour. I personally don't get my mail across the road unless it's daylight. So hopefully my mailman doesn't hate me for letting it fill up because I work till 5. So in the winters, it's pretty much on the weekends or Fridays. Has the town thought about addressing that speeding issue compared to the posted speed limit and what was gathered during the traffic study on Upper Mannix Road?
Oh, that would be more of a question for the police department. It's a very good question. I guess the process there is that we would have to convey, they're not present in this meeting. We would have to convey that to the police department that, their comments made within this meeting and it's backed up by the traffic study, that there's a significant amount of speeding there. Adam, does that sound accurate?
Yeah, we're taking notes. We'll do that. We'll send the chief an email on that.
Okay, thank you. That's sharing that you guys are looking out for our safety.
Yeah, and certainly I would recommend, reach out to the chief with issues like that in general, right?
Yeah.
If you have any concerns. I've personally had concerns in my own house before and shot an email there and they were very responsive.
Yeah, that was the kind of number one thing, safety for my wife and I. And, we have a dog and looking to expand our family and have kids. So 15 to 20 miles an hour over the speed limit was definitely something of concern if we're going to increase to, 100 cars during the 100 more vehicles during the evening when that's prime time for a kid to be out playing. One thing with the development, the sewer system, we're on a septic tank and it looks like they're going to be making a loop of a sewer system around pretty much our house between the tech park through the complex. Was the development plan to allot for potential expansion to existing residents that are close to the system? I guess it's more of a question for the developer than the town board.
Let me
Question. Yeah, go ahead, Adam.
Yeah, let me feel that. So I'll kick this back to the developer's engineer, Brett. We did talk about doing that. And there are plans in the works that I think Brett can probably speak to provide service connections. And I think your property was one of those that, the part of the issue there is the vertical curve of Mannix doesn't allow for a lot of gravity flow, for example. I think one thing I wanted to mention is when they do the sewer district extension request to the town board, you would need to work with they cannot include parcels in general that whose owners have not acquiesced to be included. So that's something that I would recommend, and we can put you in touch with Don and Nick of the the owner, to talk about including your property in their application for district expansion, because I think there's a financial, there's a legal, and there's an infrastructure design aspect to what you're talking about. I think the infrastructure, Brett, I'll stop there.
Yeah, I was just wondering if the kind of plan for the system they were going to put in place was going to allow for whether they add more lots to their property or if they would allow neighboring properties to join in the system, if it was like the bare minimum of what needed to be passed for what's being proposed, or if they had a little bit of flow leeway to expand on it.
Right now, the system's designed for our facility from a sewer standpoint, especially given the downstream constraints. I don't know if you heard our explanation regarding what we're looking at from downstream for pipe replacement past some of the pump stations. Plus, we do have, as Adam stated, some issues with vertical curves and such to get gravity sewer all the way out to Mannix Road. We're actually stopping the gravity sewer about 300 feet on the site where the pump station is being constructed. We are, however, running water all the way out to Mannix Road, and we did show within the right of way water shutoffs for your residents, as well as another resident, the other resident to the east. Should you want to connect and be part of the water district, there will be a water service and a shutoff there for that.
Justin's on mute. Looks like he's talking.
And Brett, one more thing, the wetlands at Mannix Road, between the entrance road and our property, was there any inclination of that rising water level wise, do you know of, or kind of staying at the current level that it is?
No, it should stay at the current level that it is. If anything, we'll be improving some of the drainage as it goes through that site with the new culverts that are going in, and the culverts have been sized accordingly to convey the 100-year storm event. So there shouldn't be any issues with that wetland area.
So there'd be more mitigation upstream potentially. So that's good. And I know I've been taking up a lot of time. The last one, this one back to the town, but with the road being in place, would I in turn be turned into a corner lot being adjacent to this town road off of Mannix to enter, or is there a buffer area that we still remain frontage just on it?
I can answer that. There actually is a section of HOA land between the town right of way and your property, which will remain. So you won't be a corner lot. You'll still be a normal regular lot. That wetland area will be part of that area that you're referring to as wetlands will be part of the HOA.
Okay.
Right of way doesn't start till to the east of that.
And Justin, I'm assuming your question might have to do with what you can do with your land relative to zoning. Is that what you're getting with the corner lot?
It was more tax based.
Okay.
We're homeowners, so we're still trying to figure everything out. I know talking with my parents, my grandmother actually has a corner lot and she pays frontage on 2 roads. So for her taxes, so that was kind of where my question was basing off, was will my taxes increase if I become a corner lot and have frontage on Mannix Road and then the entrance to Carver Court?
Sure. Okay. Anything else?
No, that's all. I hope I didn't steal the show for too long.
No, not at all. We appreciate your feedback.
Thank you.
Allison?
MT, do you have any comments?
They do, they're muted. MT, any comments? Okay, move on to the next one.
Mary Jane DiGiulio, do you have any comments for this project?
We do not, thank you.
Thank you.
Lillian Kramer, do you have any comments?
Hi, yeah, I do. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So everything I'm going to say has pretty much already been echoed throughout tonight, but I would like to see sidewalks go throughout the development, especially where the roads will be connecting to future development. This isn't a walkable area at all. It's actually very risky walking anywhere on Mannix, and I'm a big fan of walking. So I'm up the road on Mannix, so I'll often walk from, my house down Mannix to the tech park and then down Thompson Hill and to the hotel and to the urgent care. And so it'd be nice, I do take advantage of the trails that the tech park has, but it would be nice to, if the town does approve this, to be able to walk in this neighborhood. And assuming that there will be further development behind there, it's going to be a very congested area at some point. So
again, assuming that these people are going to want to walk around their neighborhood. So it'd be nice to see at least sidewalks, along the roads that will be connecting to future development. So with that said, my biggest issue is the traffic. And Adam, if you can clear this up for me. So the study that you're referring to with DOT that you shared tonight, that information was based on the one-day study done in February through the developers?
Yeah, so it's based, it's based on, yes, it's based on the overall report and methodology underlying that report that VHB, of the developer's engineer put together. So what that report does is it based on the trip generation, and that's why the issue about the trip generation was a big deal. The DOT only requires you to go after a higher level of analysis once you hit 100 trips per day in one of the peak hours at an offsite intersection. So because that warrant wasn't met according to the trip generation estimates from the project, they didn't need to go any further than the analysis they did. And what analysis, and Alana can probably elaborate a little bit further, analysis they did, it conforms to accepted traffic engineering practices, as opposed to, and that's what DOT is going to base their look on as well. But they're also going to have that threshold. I also want to say too that our town designated engineer has reviewed the traffic study, and they have found they did comment on the COVID related issues, but they have found no sort of showstoppers, to use a lack of a better phrase, with the analysis.
Okay, thank you for explaining that. I still have a hard time, honestly, considering this even a traffic study. Like, if it was one day, it was in February of 2021, where majority of people who were in the office, or maybe not majority, but say half of the people who were in the office were working from home at that time. I work for the state, so I know almost all state workers were sitting home, working from home at that time. So I would honestly really like to see another traffic study done, and one that's geared towards actually counting the traffic as opposed to just measuring the speed. In the environmental assessment form, it does, one of the things that they marked yes was projected traffic increase may exceed capacity of existing road network. So, Mannix is still very much a country cut through road, and Route 4 between the roundabout of Route 4 and Mannix and, where ShopRite is, traffic does get crazy there. So if the town is going to allow this 110 home development and then further development behind that, which is going to be, I'm assuming, just as equally as big, Upper Mannix really can't handle this kind of traffic, and Route 4 really can't handle this traffic. And I mean, Route 4 could maybe be easily fixed with some more roundabouts or better light timing. But what I find interesting is also in the environmental assessment form that it does say that the study was performed to industry standards, and that they do not require further detailed intersection study where projected traffic volumes at involved intersections will be less than 100 trips, like you said, Adam. But the study shows that there was 111 new vehicle trips during the peak PM hours. So I don't understand how it's saying that it doesn't need to be further evaluated, even though it's actually over that threshold.
I think, I'm going to get out of my lane here a little bit. I think it has to do with so there's trip generation, and then the next step is assigning the trips to the network. So I think that split from 35-65 is the reason for that. And we could turn it over to Alana. I wanted to ask Alana, and how to follow up on Lillian's question, maybe to help with the adequacy of this report. How sensitive is the assumption or the measurement of the 35-65 split to a 1-day analysis or measurement?
Right. Okay. So a couple things. First of all, the threshold, the 100 trip threshold is not the trip generation for the overall site. The 100 trip threshold is the trip generation, trips generated by the site on any single approach to an intersection. So for instance, during the evening peak hour, we're looking at 110 trips, right? But of those trips, 70 of them are entering the site and 40 of them are exiting the site. So we've already dispersed the traffic enough at that point, or the development has dispersed enough that it wouldn't meet the 100 trip threshold. In order to do that, you would need to have 100 trips leaving the site during the same peak hour and traveling to the same intersection. So that's not a condition that is happening with this particular development. So the 35-65 split doesn't change whether offsite analysis is warranted or not. So the second thing, just kind of context to think through, is that during the morning peak hour, we're looking at about 80-85 trips. Of those, 21 of the trips are entering the site and 60 are exiting the site. So if we were to say that 60 trips are exiting the site during the morning peak hour and all of them are headed to the Route 4 roundabout, that would be one additional trip every minute, and would still be less than that 100 vehicle trip threshold. I hope that helps.
Okay, yeah, I mean, I still just have a really hard time believing that the addition of this development, along with the current traffic that uses Mannix, that it wouldn't end up meeting that threshold if the study was redone today when more people are back in the office. I know you guys say you're accounting for COVID, but I just have a really hard time thinking that. You're adding 110 houses into a development, averaging 2 cars per household, and then the people who are coming from Averill Park and use Mannix to go. And I mean, we're 30 cars away from that 100 threshold at PM peak hours. And this was during peak COVID times, where people aren't going to work. So I just have a really hard time with this whole, this development isn't going to impact traffic. It's 100% going to impact traffic, to the point where we're shutting down Thompson Hill Road, where, the Route 4 is already an issue. Upper Mannix is not built for this kind of traffic. I mean, and this isn't an issue directed at the developers. This is more of an issue that's directed at the town, because the town needs to address these issues, and it's only going to get worse, especially as further development happens. And I've been following Carver Court for a long time, and there's always been talk about the Thompson Hill traffic, but there's never been any discussion about the Mannix traffic or the Route 4 traffic. And again, I know that's not the purpose of the developers or the responsibility of the developers, and it's a responsibility of the town. But I would like to know, what is the town doing about this? Or are they just saying, oh, well, DOT told us it's not going to be an issue, so we're just not going to do anything? Which, again, we know it's not true. The people who live in this area know for a fact that traffic is going to be an issue.
There are two tools we have that we're working on right now. They're in progress. One is we received US DOT funding to update the Route 4 corridor study. The study area is Mannix roundabout to Route 43 in the town of North Greenbush. It's actually a joint study with North Greenbush, being led by East Greenbush. And the last Route 4 study was completed in 2006, so it's time. We're going to look at exactly these issues, and then that's going to be coordinated with our zoning update. The zoning update will then feed into an update of the town's generic environmental impact statement, which we would anticipate borrowing from both, using as a foundation the zoning update, borrowing from the projects identified in the updated corridor study, that would be necessary to mitigate any future potential impacts of development. And that's assuming that there is a lot more development allowed up there. That's not a foregone conclusion either. So we have some, the zoning update and the Route 4 corridor study in particular right now are what we're doing.
Okay. And I'm not going to get too much into this, but I just have a question for, there's some things on the environmental assessment form that I would kind of like to discuss with somebody further. Is there somebody should specifically like direct those questions to, so I don't waste more time tonight?
I would defer to Matt. We're happy to answer those.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd reach out. I think Adam would be your best source to direct any question or, find who can answer the question.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
You can include me and Adam on any email you have a question on. Thank you
Okay,
very
we
much.
have somebody iPhone. Would you like to speak?
That's not the same iPhone as before, right?
I don't know.
I think that was Dwight.
Oh, okay. MP, do you have any comments?
No, we went to them already. They didn't have anything.
Rawls iPad?
Yeah, I do. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. This is Patrick Bergman. I have the property directly adjacent to the access road that comes on Thompson Hill Road. And I guess I have a couple questions, probably more for the developer. First of all, I was wondering, what are they going to put for a gate? Because if they're just going to put a simple, like a bar or something, is that really going to stop people from using it as a walking path, cutting through, going up to Thompson Hill and over that way? Is there going to be some other type of gate, like a formal gate, or will it just be like a bar that people can easily walk around?
Brett, can you answer that? What's planned for the gate, for the entrance?
It actually is a gate. It's a swing gate, more like you'd see like a cattle gate type of setup. It's detailed on our plans. People could walk around it. I don't foresee the need to prevent pedestrian traffic from being able to utilize this emergency access road. Again, I actually think it's, I really was never our intent to block pedestrian access through there.
Right. Okay. And in addition, I was wondering, so since my property abuts this, and I currently have a lawn with a certain grade, about a 15-foot grade over 20 feet. I'm wondering if, when you make the road, how will the grade be? Is it going to be a wall? Are you going to grade it? Because if it gets graded too much, I won't have access to my back lawn any further, because I currently use that same area to access my backyard. So
It's been detailed on the plans. I'm not sure, what you're referring to as far as using that access to get to the rear yard. We're following the existing, pretty much the grades of the existing driveway of your neighbor on the other side of the access road, and then tapering down from there.
But I think it said it was going to be 50 feet wide.
Correct.
The road, right? And so that would definitely be cutting into the hill.
The road is actually 20 feet wide. The actual road itself, well, actually at the driveway, it's wider because we're providing parking and such, but that's been detailed. We're not doing any grading or cutting on your property. Any grading or cutting will be on the applicant's property.
Gotcha. Okay.
Brett, I guess to answer, you're not building any retaining walls or anything like that?
That's correct.
Okay. And then this was my last question for Donald Z. I was wondering, I know that they gave the pay adults who were on the other side, they're giving them access, use the driveway, would they also provide that to myself or my property so that I can access my backyard? A deeded access. Is Mr. Z still there?
He's muted.
John, you're muted.
I just, hello?
Yep.
Okay. We would have no problem sitting down and just having you show us exactly what you're looking for. And I do want to clarify something that Brett had said with regard to access for pedestrian access through the emergency road. As you may recall, we met with the CAC with regard to the trails. Initially, the CAC had proposed putting some trails in that area of the development, and we had indicated that we were somewhat opposing that because we didn't want to impact residents along Thompson Hill Road of having potential pedestrians walk in that area. And so we had talked about the possibility, since it's going to be the most part HOA property, that we would be looking at some no trespassing signs, and the only people who would be permitted to walk in that area would be residents. But at the same time, we would advocate to the homeowners, members of the homeowners association, not to be going behind or near the residents along Thompson Hill Road.
Right. I guess my concern is that if they put a gate up, people are then to walk around the gate, they'll be walking then on my property. So.
Well, the road's 20 foot wide. Does the gate just cover the road?
The gate just covers the road, Mr. Mattson.
Gotcha.
And the easement,
Okay.
the easement's 50 foot, right?
Correct.
Or,
Yeah. Yes. Gotcha. Okay. Thank you. That's all.
Thank you very much. So Allison, I think next is Mike Walsh.
Yes, Mike Walsh, do you have any comments?
Yeah, I got on tonight just to see what the discussion was going to be with the traffic, the cut through, and how they were going to look at trying to mitigate how much traffic and at what speed. I know there's a lot of safety concerns up there. I own a house up there. There's been several close calls with neighbors walking and have almost gotten hit, and their animals have gotten hit. So it is a big safety concern with the amount of traffic. And on a Friday and Saturday, when Route 4 backs up to the cul-de-sac, you get a lot more traffic with people cutting through thinking they're going to save 2 hours by getting down to the Walmart. And they don't really even look at their speed. They're just looking to get down there as quick as they can and find an opening and get to where they're going. So I just want to see, I just hope that whatever we look at tonight or in the future to take and fix that problem. I just hope it's a permanent solution, not just something that we're going to do just to appease everybody for a short period of time until it does become a problem, and then then we end up paying for it as taxpayers again. And my second comment was, in which Don he addressed, was the lot line adjustment for some of the houses up on Thompson Hill Road. I just I've talked to Kurt and I've talked to Don on that, and I would be interested in getting deeded some property. I know my property up there on 52. The people that owned it prior to me have always maintained it, mowed it, and take care of it. So I would, before they leave this whole discussion and finalize everything, I would like the opportunity to see if I could get some property deeded that I would maintain and take care of. And that would be it. I also like Kurt's idea of the cul-de-sac. I know it's probably more costly, but I think that's more of a permanent solution to minimizing the people cutting through. So that's it.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Susan Skinner, do you have any comments?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
Hi, everybody. I live on Thompson Hill Road too, and I do have the concerns about the traffic that everyone else has mentioned. I've just been here for 4 years, And it's already, I've seen an increase in just that short amount of time that there's probably, I'd say 4 times the amount of traffic. And I don't know what's causing it, but it is what it is. And so I do worry, and I want to say that if we had signs put up, it would be great to have them on both ends because it would make a huge difference. And I also would say that I would be in full support of a cul-de-sac too. And that's basically my 2 cents worth.
Thank you. Yeah, it wouldn't make a whole lot of sense to have signs on one end.
Because they come both ways. They definitely do. I watch it every night and and they go fast. And there's kids and there's pets, and it just would be nice to not have people do that. And I'm getting tired of picking up roadkill. Don't stop for that either.
Thank you very much for your feedback.
All right, thanks.
And then we have a call in 518 with the last 3 digits 355. Would you like to comment?
All right. So I appreciate everyone in the public's feedback. One last time, after all those comments, is anyone we'll run through the board quick, see if anyone else has any further comment. Chris Horn.
Sorry, I couldn't get unmuted here. No, I guess I'm just still a little confused about the traffic discussion that we've had. And if I'm understanding, maybe Alana, you could just go through this one more time, but you've concluded that there would only be 60 trips leaving at peak morning time from the development. Is that correct for a 110 unit?
Right. So the way that the trip generation estimate works is that it's based upon data from throughout the United States, all these various data points that estimate, that result in a rate or a fitted curve equation that estimates the number of trips that will enter and exit a particular land use during a single peak hour. So it's either from, say, in the morning, it's 7:30 to 8:30. So in this, for land use code 210, which is single family homes, the data has been very, very consistent for quite some time in that during the morning peak hour, the site will generate a little under 1 trip per home. And during the PM peak hour, it's generally going to generate about 1 trip per home, just, right about there. The important thing to kind of think about here that gets people a little bit confused sometimes is that, say at my home, my husband and I both have a vehicle, my daughter has a vehicle, right? So there's 3 of us that have cars that are driving in our single family residential development. However, none of us leave the house during the same 1 hour period. Like my daughter goes to school at 7:30. I head off to school at 8. I head off to work at 8:30, and then my husband, who has a different schedule entirely, he doesn't work a typical office job. So even though there's going to be maybe 2 vehicles or 3 per household, that's not the way that the trips actually generate during that 1 peak hour. So during the AM peak hour, the estimate is 83 trips, and 60 of those would exit the site, and 20 of them would enter the site during the morning.
Okay, and that's just based on the engineering standard that's in place. I mean, to me, it seems like the amount of cars entering the site, that number just doesn't seem as logical to me, to be honest with you, because that's when everyone's leaving for work in the morning. There's
right,
a lot
so
of
that's
people who have night jobs.
Exactly. So that's when people are exiting the site. We've got more people leaving during the morning peak hour, and then we've got more people coming home during the evening peak hour. That's why it's that higher percentage exiting during the morning and the higher percentage entering during the evening.
Does the entering include like the 3 school buses that would enter between the hours of 6 and 8?
So yeah, the data would be inclusive of whatever is going on in the neighborhood. So if, again, my neighborhood, we've got 4 buses that come through during those, that kind of morning peak period. So during a 1 hour period, I might have 3 of them exactly entering the neighborhood. So yes, it does include that other type of use, whether it's a garbage truck coming into the neighborhood, some sort of delivery, or just somebody entering or leaving their neighborhood.
So what I understand, you said that's US wide, that estimate. So it's a very gross number that really doesn't take into account specifics of, say, an East Greenbush type of suburb area, the demographics, the traffic flow, and so on. It's just a very gross number.
No, the data has been found to be very, very accurate throughout the United States. Traffic in East Greenbush is just like traffic in Wilton. Like, things are really not that different residence to residence, especially single family developments like this one. It's very, very consistent.
And again,
So
that's traffic right at that exit point is where the data comes from. In or out of that development. Right?
Yes, entering and exiting the development. It's the total trips during the peak hour.
So it sounds like we were kind of close to meeting that threshold of 100 trips, but didn't quite hit that threshold.
It's 100 in one direction.
100 in one direction.
Yes,
Yeah, so
100 in
so
one
we're at 60.
direction.
We're only 60% there.
Oh, okay. All right.
This is a really interesting conversation. I just want to weigh in because as a planner, I would probably agree with Alana that, like, within the framework of how the ITE estimates and analyzes and collects data, it's probably consistent and very, empirically verifiable. But if you change some of the assumptions slightly, or about mixed use developments, for example, it's not, it's a good discussion to have. Some of it's maybe academic, but to your point, Kurt, it's a simplification. It's a regression analysis, so yeah.
And one thing that I in the back of my mind is that right there on Mannix Road is also the tech park, a hotel, and so on. And when we're talking cut through traffic, instead of just saying Carver Court, if we broaden that whole thing, all of a sudden those numbers change through cut through traffic and backing up on the Route 4 cul-de-sac.
If we had hit the 100,
Carver Court in consideration. The old Carver Court, which is 186 units.
I'm sorry?
I think the roundabout was built with capacity for the old Carver Court, which was 186 units, to avoid that queuing up onto Mannix Road. Because at the time of the construction, that project was approved.
That's actually a really important point, because if just theoretically, if the 100 trip threshold had been met, the study would have done an analysis of the Mannix Road roundabout, which was completed certainly when the DOT did the study and installed the roundabout. They do a 20-year horizon period. So it went out to like 2034, I want to say, something along those lines. It did include, several hundred more vehicles on the Upper Mannix Road approach to the intersection. So the roundabout as built was meant to handle quite a bit more traffic than is actually there at this point.
Going down the street. She said she hates picking up roads.
Chris, anything else?
I was going to ask what would have happened if we had hit the 100 threshold, but I think you just answered that question, Alana.
All right. Noreen, do you have anything else?
Yes, just quickly, I just want to reinforce again about the sidewalks. I pulled up the report from the CAC, and it had some recommendations in there about even decreasing some of the sidewalks along road number 2. I just hearing the public talk and living, of course, in East Greenbush and knowing we want a safe, walkable community as much as we can. And it was important to hear one person talk about how unsafe Mannix Road is to walk along. And, so that this would be an opportunity. There's going to be nature trails there. So I just want to throw that in again. I want to reinforce again, and there seems to be some options and proposals in the CAC report.
All right, thank you. Don Patton, anything else?
I'm good.
Kurt?
Okay, so what I heard is that the data was taken, I just want to summarize some of the points that I heard. Okay, so no traffic pattern data was taken. Data was taken for line of sight and speed of traffic on there. And no data was taken outside of the COVID time, which we know there's a dramatic change in traffic and traffic patterns when it's normal. Not all the options as requested in previous meetings were investigated. In other words, I heard signs, but I got it from a second source that spoke to police department. They said that putting signs up that say no through traffic is not enforceable. So it's a kind of a null advantage to putting up, just cut through signs. And that there's no not all the real engineering solutions were evaluated, like again, a cul-de-sac or turnaround at the end of it, making it a dead-end street. So that wasn't investigated. Obviously it's more cost to the developer, but it's more concerned with the residents, future residents, and the overall town. And then I was also concerned with the cutback in the sidewalks, that were presented. Again, that was a cost savings, for the developer, not keeping in mind the residents of Carter, future residents of Carter Court, or even the town as a whole. So there's several things that I think are still open in my mind. Thank you.
Thanks, Kurt. John Conway?
Yeah, I think there are several things that are still open. So in that spirit, I don't think I have anything more tonight. So thanks.
All right. Thank you.
Hey, Matt, we had somebody enter. You want me to see if she wants to speak?
Sure.
Susan Shea, do you have any comments?
No comments.
Thank you.
Matt, we had one more comment in the chat from Justin. I'll read that.
Yeah, I can't see it, so go ahead.
So Justin says, asks, based on statements said, since trying to prevent pedestrian access to Thompson Hill, would East Greenbush be looking to add sidewalks from Route 4 to the development along Mannix Road, residential buffer side or the tech property side?
Not as part of this project, but I think, Adam, there was an inventory taken of just about many roads in town and prioritizing sidewalks. I don't recall if that stretch was on there or not. It probably wasn't because that subdivision wasn't there.
Yeah, and the volume of the road. I think, there is a fair amount of additional development already gone through the environmental review and the PDD rezoning review at the tech park. There's also some changes possibly to Mannix Road that would be required as part of the development of that project. So there's probably going to be some other opportunities, even if the town doesn't undertake directly. And then there's the Route 4 corridor study as well.
Matt, I also got a couple of other comments from Dave Chirpening that came directly just to me. He had stated that he agreed with Ms. Kramer. I believe that was about the sidewalks going through the whole development and wanting another traffic study done. And he also made another comment after that about all the other variables. I think he was talking about maybe what I believe Kurt might have been saying about like the hotel there and the other, traffic that's generated on Upper Mannix Road.
All right. Okay, so that concludes the public hearing. I'll go through the formalities. Would anyone like to speak in favor of the Carver Court 110 lot subdivision? Would anyone like to speak in favor of the Carver Court 110 lot subdivision? Finally, would anyone like to speak in favor of the Carver Court 110 lot subdivision? Would anyone like to speak against the Carver Court 110 lot subdivision? Would anyone like to speak against the Carver Court 110 lot subdivision? Finally, would anyone like to speak against the Carver Court 110 lot subdivision? With that, I will make a motion to close the public hearing for Carver Court. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Pan.
Roll called as follows: Chairman Maston,
Yes.
Mr. Bergman,
Voting to close it, is that the question?
correct?
Yeah.
Close. Second, or agreed.
Ms. Horn,
Yes.
Mr. Panton,
Yes.
Mr. Conway,
Yes.
Ms. Gill,
Yes.
motion carried by a 6-0 vote.
All right, next we have another public hearing. Thank you for bearing with us. It's for Julio, 4044 Tanner's Lane for minor 2 lot subdivision. I'll begin by notice of public hearing. Please take notice that the planning board of the town of East Greenbush will hold a public hearing on February 9th, 2022, beginning at 7 p.m. The following matter: the town of East Greenbush Planning Board shall conduct a public hearing pursuant to section 276 of the town law and town's land subdivision regulations on the application of Mary Jane DeJulio for a minor 2 lot subdivision called the subdivision of lands of Michael and Mary Jane DeJulio. The property is located at 4047 Tanner's Lane in the R2 residential zoning district, tax map number 144.3-1-1.115 and 144.3-1-14. Said public hearing will be held on Wednesday, February 9, 2022 at 7 p.m. remotely via Zoom. At the above time and place, all interested parties will be given an opportunity to be heard by order of the planning board. Pursuant to the New York State First Law of 2022, advisories issued by federal, state, and local officials related to the COVID-19 virus, the planning board will convene its February 9th, 2022 board meeting remotely. And as previously referenced in the last public hearing, the same remote access applies as far as Zoom and YouTube and the call-in number. Can the applicant give us a brief presentation, or is it Mr. Brian, are you representing the applicant? Can you give us a brief presentation quick? You're muted. Yeah.
Good evening, everybody. Can you all hear me?
Yep.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Brian Holbritter, licensed land surveyor. I represent Michael and Mary Jane DeJulio on this project. Again, we are trying to take 2 existing lots at the end of Tanner's Lane and do a lot line adjustment and create a new lot in between the 2 existing homes for the purpose of Mike and Mary Jane to build a new smaller home on a new 20,200 square foot lot, leaving their existing home on a 47,374 square foot lot and their rental home that's at 40 Tanner's Lane on a 11,250 foot square lot. We had a zoning board meeting last night at which by a 3-2 vote, we received approval for our 2 variances for the insufficient road frontage for lots 2 and 1. Also, we've gotten a hold of Stephen Hart, PE, and he is going to be working with us on finalizing utility connections for the new lot number 2, as well as putting together a grading plan as requested by the planning department. And that's all the information, new information I have for the board at this time.
Thank you very much. I don't have any questions, but I'll go through the board members. Chris Horn, any comments or question?
Just need a refresher of my memory of where the one concern I had with this was where the driveway of the new lot would be coming out. And was there a discussion on the zoning board about how that was going to factor in?
Adam or Brian, do you have a drawing you can share your screen?
I do not.
Or was there like an easement that was granted, or I can't remember. what the-
So Chris, the driveway for the new lot comes out onto the cul-de-sac. There's no issues with that driveway whatsoever. The DeJulio's existing driveway for lot 1 with their existing house that sits in off the end of the cul-de-sac, their driveway cuts over the corner of lot 2. And we are proposing to grant an easement for that small piece of asphalt drive. It's, probably only about 20 square feet total. Mr. DeJulio just put a brand new asphalt drive in, I think this summer or just last fall, and we would hate to slide it over, at least right now. At some point, that driveway could be shifted north a little bit so that it didn't cross lot 2, but at this time, we were hoping to just kind of take care of that with a easement that ran with lot 2 for the existence of that little piece of asphalt.
Okay, yeah, that's what I thought I recalled the discussion. I just didn't know if that had been settled on or not. I'm a little unclear when the easement piece of it gets decided on in the process.
And the new driveway for the new house is, if you're looking down at the top of the house, it's to the left of the parcel. And can you
Gotcha.
highlight that, the new driveway? Yeah, so that's the right-hand line of it.
Okay. All right.
Chris, to answer your question procedurally, I think what we could do as a condition of, well, and maybe this is a Joe question, but what we could do is have a condition that prior to a CO, evidence of filing, the easement be provided to the town, like the actual filing receipt from the county clerk, and that they provide a copy of the draft easement language and filing materials for us, even before you stamp the board authorizes stamping of the plat.
Yeah, I think that would be fine if the board wished to go in that direction.
Chris, anything else?
Nope, I'm good, thanks.
Noreen?
No questions or comments. Thanks.
John?
Yeah, I did the site visit 2 months ago today. And when I did it, I walked the whole site, and I could see at that time that a house there would be right in that nature of the neighborhood. I knew another house because of the way it was going to be positioned. So it definitely, it's not a negative effect on that neighborhood right now. So, I recommended that it would be put in place. So I'm in agreement that they should, be able to put a house in there, a third house. So that's my feeling.
Okay. Thank you. Kurt?
No comments.
Thank you. John Conway?
There was some discussion last night at the zoning board and about how far back the house, I guess the new house would be. Do you recall what that was? How far off the road the new house would be, what the setback would be?
So John, the new house, you can see on the drawing, the 25-foot minimum setback line for this R2 district. And we are probably a little over 75 feet back from the right of way. So, we've got the house set back in line with the rest of the lot, the houses coming in on Tanner's Lane, to provide both plenty of room for driveway parking in front of the house, as well as get the house back on the lot where it has more width to it.
Yeah. And do you recall just offhand, because I think this came up too, just how wide the lot is at that point where the house sits?
I'm going to say that at that point, the lot probably has a width of 90, 95 feet.
Okay. Very good. Thank you. That's it.
Sure.
All right, Allison, now we'll go through the public.
Let's see. Dave Turpinning, do you have any comments? Oh, he just sent me a text in the chat box. I'll read it. It says regarding the DeJulio 40 to 44 Tanner's Lane minor two-lot subdivision, as I stated at the zoning board as a public comment, the applicant has gone to much expense in an attempt to get variances. It is my understanding that they were approved at the 2/8/2020 zoning meeting with what he believes was a 3-2 no vote. As a member of the public, I would encourage the planning board approve this minor two-lot subdivision to go forward. The applicant has dotted all her i's and crossed all their t's and had a professional land surveyor, I would suspect at great expense. This additional new residential property lot will generate additional tax revenue for the town of East Greenbush. This is a good use of an individual residential property. It is not a mega development effort such as Town Center and Carver Court, taking up large portions of wooded property, adding additional load on town's water sewer infrastructure. That is it from him. MT, again, are you here for this project? Do you have any comment?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Hello? Hello?
Yep, we can hear you.
I'm a close, I'm a close neighbor of the property in question, and there is no objection at all.
Great, thank you for your feedback.
And again, somebody who called in with the phone number with the last 3 digits of 355. Do you have any comment?
I think that's it, right?
Yeah, I guess not. And yep, that would be it.
All right. So look at the formalities. Would anyone like to speak in favor of the DeJulio two-lot subdivision? Anyone like to speak in favor of the DeJulio two-lot subdivision? And finally, would anyone like to speak in favor of the DeJulio two-lot subdivision? Would anyone like to speak against the DeJulio two-lot subdivision? Anyone like to speak against the DeJulio two-lot subdivision? Finally, would anyone like to speak against the DeJulio two-lot subdivision? And I'll make a motion to close the public hearing for DeJulio 4044 Tanner's Lane. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Panton.
Roll call as follows, Chairman Maston,
Yes.
Mr. Bergman, Ms. Horn,
Yes.
Mr. Panton,
Yes.
Mr. Conway,
Yes, sorry.
Ms. Gill.
Yes.
Motion carried by 6-0 vote.
Right. Thank you very much, Brett and DeJulio. Or Brian, Jesus. Sorry.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we move on to old business 2011 Carver Court, Upper Mannix Road. Review of preliminary plat. So, Adam, based on the public hearing and feedback from the board, there's 2 things outstanding, and how do we deal with them? We have this resolution to potentially vote on tonight, but if we voted on this, how would we deal with the outstanding traffic issues, and how would we deal with the sidewalks, I guess? Those are the 2 things that stuck out in my mind.
So with respect to the sidewalks.
Let's start with traffic mitigation. How would we deal with traffic mitigation?
Yeah, so I mean, I think this might also be, unfortunately, our TDE couldn't attend tonight. They have reviewed the study. DOT has signed off on the study. I think the board can always reopen seeker. You know, right now it's basically said, the board is on the record saying that, but for a few conditions relating to the sanitary sewer, which we should probably also talk about, there would be no environmental impacts and no EIS is required. So the board can go back and say, listen, in order to, you know, traffic appears to have arisen as a new issue. There were some questions about the trip split and you know, some of the COVID issues. We could provide the board the applicant's response to our comments on that. And we can see if we could do some further investigations to see if that warrants reopening seeker. I think, you know, I think Joe may need to weigh in on kind of some of the procedural aspects of that. You know, so I would say, you know, yeah, go ahead, Joe. Yeah.
Yeah, I would just say that once the public hearing is held, the planning board has 45 days to, you know, sort of act on the preliminary plat. Either approve it, conditionally approve it, or disapprove it, or upon mutual agreement with the developer to extend that date. So if there are considerations and outstanding items that the board feels warrant further investigation and review, you know, they don't need to feel compelled to vote on it tonight. They do have some time, so.
Okay. I personally don't take issue with how the study was done based on past projects and how we performed the study. I do, to a point Kurt made earlier, you know, I would like to identify what are the what is the mitigation that's going to take place? Is it, because if it's a cul-de-sac, that's a much bigger decision that someone needs to decide on, right? If it's, you know, speed bumps or sign, you know, what does that look like? I think knowing that would make everyone feel, I assume would make everyone feel a little bit better.
And I do like to make one comment that, and Adam, I'll have to disagree with you. The traffic is nothing new. I've been saying it ad nauseum. I know everybody's fed up with me, but that has been something that directly spoke to the engineer and the attorney and said, this is important. This is important to the neighborhood. This is important to the future in town for months, say 6 months, a year, and to no avail. So I disagree with that one statement, you know, that it has been standing for a long time.
I may, Donald Lee speaking. As we received comments, and Mr. Bergman, you had indicated at one of the meetings that you had comments with regard to the signage. We are agreeable to the signage. Secondly, you had raised the possibility, based on discussions with your neighbors, with residents up there, about speed bumps. We agreed to the speed bumps or speed, and we have even recommended, if the town desires, we would make them seasonal in that they can be removed for plowing purposes. And then someone said about, I think it was you, Mr.
Don, you're frozen.
Speed reducer.
Don, you froze there for a little bit.
Okay, what I was saying, we had talked about, Mr. Bergman had, when we came back with the speed humps or speed bumps, I believe he had indicated, what about making them extended in length a little bit so that they're longer and it's easier to plow if the town didn't want the season speed bumps. So we are willing to do whatever, as to those two things, whatever you need, the town planning board desires, as well as the town. With regard to the discussion tonight about a second sign on the other end of Thompson Hill Road, we are agreeable to that. What we had, Mr. Bergman at the last planning board meeting asked about the addition of possibly some sort of structure, and I think Alana called it a pork chop, at the end of Thompson Hill Road. And from our perspective, we're willing to put that in.
Okay, I want to clarify. At the last meeting, Don, what I said was, I want you guys to come with an engineering solution, okay? I did not agree, and I was not going to engineer it for you. I said, please come with an engineering solution, whether it's tabled or speed humps or whatever, but an engineering solution for you guys to work through it. So I respectfully disagree with that.
Well, one of your thoughts was possibly of that restriction.
I threw it out there. I said,
and I'm saying and I believe Adam had talked about it as well, because it's all subject to DPW's approval, review and acceptance of it, and the town. We're willing to offer to pay for that. All right.
And the commissioner, I spoke to him yesterday. He liked the idea of the cul-de-sac or the turnaround and making the street a dead end, as opposed to the others.
Can't afford to do a cul-de-sac at the other end.
Or the sidewalk, or the sidewalks.
No, we will do the sidewalk. Based on the public comment, we would add the sidewalk. But we cannot do the cul-de-sac. The things that transpired and why it's delayed with regard to, and it was raised earlier by Adam, with regard to the sewers, you have to understand a little bit of the background of what's transpired over the last 90 to 120 days. We were advised that Regeneron, through their engineers, had done an analysis. We looked at the study. Our engineer picked up errors in that study. And we had meetings and we had discussions with the town. The town TDE, I believe, is an agreement from the format in which Brett Steenberg did it. We talked to DEC. They are in agreement through it. And the town has also asked for the 100 gallons per minute buffer, which, as Brett had indicated, is not a requirement of the 10 state standards. And not sure, but I don't believe it's in your subdivision codes that requires it. But that cost is potentially into the 7 figures. And it doesn't just benefit us. We would be doing improvements that would be benefiting Regeneron. And that was a cost that we did not anticipate.
Don, how much are those pump stations costing? $6.5 million.
Understood. I'd like to have Regeneron's money. I think through the first 3 quarters of last year, I think they only made $65 billion. And I think some of the money's coming. So I don't want to get into that, but I'm just saying we picked up on something and we're agreeable to, as Brett had indicated, go beyond developing the infrastructure just necessary for our project. There's a buffer and a substantial buffer.
Don, just to be clear, could your project go forward without the upgrades to those 2 stations?
Sometimes, Adam, I'm not sure, because at one point in time, we were told that there was 80 some odd gallons of excess capacity. Now we understand that there isn't. So I'd have to look back at the report again, because as I said, Brett was able to pick up in his analysis, and then the TDE agreed with it. So I'm not sure. I'm not an engineer with regard to the sewers. I'm just explaining a little bit of the cost factor. And, the chairman had, we had asked to be on earlier several months ago, and it was not moved forward because of the issue of the sewers. I just wanted to explain to the planning board why there has been a delay a little bit. And Adam, you had said there'd be a discussion with regard to the sewers. That's why we are now waiting for DEC to review it, because as Brett says, They agree with his methodology. If his numbers are accurate, and that is with regard to the sizing, the width of the pipe. You know, we have the width of the pipe. We have that already known.
Don,
We believe
I was just gonna, and I don't mean to, I just want to interject that our TDE is still reviewing that, and the initial input that that Ray and George provided was that the 14, what we're talking about for the board's benefit is the H2M report that the town developed that Don's referring to with the errors which we're addressing. It used a more conservative approach to the diameter of the pipe. So where Brett calls out 15 inches, H2M calls out 14.58. So that difference results in an addition of 2 sticks of pipe in about 1,000 feet. So yeah, that's a substantial cost. Our TDE initially has weighed in that the more conservative approach is preferable. And we had our DPW went and measured the pipes. They could not get an accurate measurement, even from the ground floor of the manhole. They came out with a measurement like 8 inches, which it probably is not. So my understanding was that when Brett did the field work, he couldn't get down into the pipe, into the structure, because the steps were so corroded away. So one of the things we probably need to do is have an independent surveyor who's licensed by the state of New York to go out there and determine the existence of things in their measurements, their heights and and elevations and all of that, and confirm what those diameters are, because there really isn't any agreement on that.
Adam, I'm gonna stop you right there because.
I know, I'm gonna stop everyone. I'm trying to go one thing at a time. I personally don't really give a shit about the sewer right now, right? I said I want to.
So if I can just finish up then on the issue of traffic. I have been involved in a few projects where signage has been placed up. And as long as the town is in agreement with the placement of the sign, it's enforceable by the police. And I just checked with Alana as well, and I think she's done a few traffic signage and analysis as well. And I think she is in agreement that it is enforceable by the local police. So the no cut through signs would be enforceable.
Adam, have you got any formal feedback from Dan Fiacco?
Anna and I spoke with Dan this afternoon after, I think, Kurt, you had mentioned, so just to sync up with Dan, and he's in agreement with the signs. I think I have not, the chief, I did speak with the chief. We didn't talk, like, it was mostly in the context of her providing input as part of this process. I think that the signs are, they might be enforceable, but are they effective is a separate issue. And how do you really enforce on, how do you know if somebody's a resident or not? How do you have probable cause? So it puts them out there a little bit, I think. What Dan said to me is there really isn't a straightforward solution, presuming there is cut through right now and that this will exacerbate it as well as future development. And I think he brought up, the casino plans that, again, that be closed off. As part of the development or preliminary discussions with the Bonaccio Construction Group about the parcel to the north and west adjoining this one, we had talked with DOT about a right turn out only at the bottom of Thompson Hill Road. So making that a do not enter as part of that. But that was in a larger context of, of redoing the traffic to bring up on Thompson Hill completely to bring it out to Route 4 at the traffic light. So Dan was a part of those conversations too. But to answer your question directly, when we just spoke, it was exactly what Kurt said. You know, the speed humps in their experience, in DPW's experience, that plowing is not an issue, but the speed humps don't really slow people down either. They go the same speed over there. Really what it does is put the pedestrian like higher, you know, almost at the height of like a, you know, F-250 now, you know, that you can see.
So how do we get to a
That's
solution?
exactly what Dan and I had talked about.
I mean, one of the things we haven't done is look at the background traffic information up there. I know, Don, you had offered last meeting, like a financial security to, you know, implement some amount of countermeasures up there if it seemed to be necessary. And, you know, it seems like the solution, it must be part of a broader effort up there. And we are looking at that. We don't have the answers right now. You know, Dan and I talked about having an engineering study specifically for the for this issue. And, you know, what we discussed, I mentioned that we have the Route 4 corridor study, and we're gonna get into a pretty decent planning level concept of what could be done, working with traffic engineers to get there, and you know, regional agencies, including DOT. They're going to be a key stakeholder at the table. So
So
stop.
are you saying take a financial security and include that in mitigation identified through the Route 4 corridor study?
That might be one option, right? So maybe in concert with post-development traffic monitoring, like I think we may have talked about last time, you know, we have the study, we have the security, we have the monitoring, and at some point in the development, and this is pretty common, we did this for Regeneron, you know, after the first phase, you know, monitoring will occur, and then we evaluate for the signal warrant, you know. So, you know, we could at that time, the town / whoever makes that decision, we have to decide, would either direct that security to like Route 4, or would, you know, the Route 4 projects, or would come up with a solution that's more limited, that's designed to address any issues elucidated by post-development monitoring.
I personally like that approach because you see what actually happens, right? And that it's a more educated response to the effect of the subdivision. And what one person said tonight was, the town, it's not just an issue with Mannix Road, Thompson Hill. The town hasn't done anything on Route 4, which is then causes issues on ancillary roads. It's not exactly what she said, but I don't know, Kurt, you've been pretty outspoken about the traffic. I'd like to hear your opinion on taking that approach. You're on mute. There you go.
Yes, it's always nice to know what the facts are after it's all been done. But I think if I'm always concerned, when we've had a past history of other projects, not necessarily this one, but smaller ones, that they're supposed to do, you know, we thought some things were going to get done and they didn't get done. And I'm just afraid, at least if something's not done initially, that it'll never get done, or it'll be 5 years out or something. And that's, my mind would be too long, you know, 5 years out. So I would at least like to see something to mitigate it up front, and then we can take a look at it farther down the road.
You know, we are doing a development agreement too, Kurt. That's at least one of the proposals. And so we could look at a condition of one of the future sections, filing it, you know, doing maybe an interim analysis, you know, in concert with the security, and then implementing. You're absolutely there. You know, that puts a lot of burden on staff, on the town to follow up. It's really easy to let things slide. So Yeah, the development agreement is a vehicle to get there is the point, I think.
But I mean, one thing, we don't even have good data now. I mean, it was brought up a couple times, data, but we don't have good data now with the COVID, and we don't have a real traffic study. We just have a study to see what the speed limit is and line of sight, not the actual flow and the numbers from that standpoint too. You know?
Could you unmute Nick Laraway? He's on the phone.
355 ending.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Hey guys, so just throwing this out there, we've got a pretty substantial traffic fee due for the project, due in phases. It's like $1,300 a lot for 110 lots, 145 grand. What if we agreed to put that entire amount in escrow until we determined what was the best way to do this? Because there's a lot of ideas out there on what would be best, but we don't really know what would be the true ideal mitigation until we see what happens here. So if we agreed within the next 24 months as we built out to put that amount in escrow, and before we moved into the second phase, determine how to do it, and then we execute it, would that be something we could put in the developer's agreement and play it out with a defined timeline rather than a bunch of what ifs, not knowing what the future holds and what the other developments to the adjacent properties entail? We want to do what's best for these residents. We've moved the trails away from these properties. We've developed this whole property trying to be cognizant of what the neighbors need. And I truly feel like they did a fair traffic study, but not knowing what the future of COVID holds, traffic may be completely different 2 years from now. And the answer may be a hammerhead or a cul-de-sac, or it may be signs and speed bumps, but we feel like we've given a fair shake. DOT agrees, and so does your TDE, but if that remains the one lingering issue, we're willing to take our traffic fees that are due in sections and put them all up in escrow so that we can move forward, because we don't know what the future holds on that one item.
Nick, I would just say, and to the board, that it would be properly placed in the development agreement, because that's really a town board. The fees are a town board question, along with the
Yeah,
GEIS.
and we're willing to discuss that along with the other items when we move forward with the development agreement. But if we don't know what the wish of this board is, it's tough to deal with both boards when they're not both at the table together.
So, Adam, knowing DPW ultimately makes this call, how do we move forward here? And I will say the next point, Nick's talking about GEIS fees, putting them in escrow, right?
Yeah.
Which we're talking about something different. We're talking about a mitigation above and beyond GIS. GIS fees are meant for the rest of the town to mitigate from a project, not specifically for Thompson Hill Road.
But well, I mean, from our perspective, we've agreed to do the speed bumps and the signs and everything called out by our traffic study that was in concurrence with DOT and the TDE at our cost. But anything above and beyond that, we're certainly willing to work with everyone to the betterment of Thompson Hill. But I mean, from our perspective, the work we've done to date is backed up by all the work we've done and the science.
I mean, I think one question to Dan and DPW would be, presuming the board would concur with, as a short-term measure, speed humps, speed bumps, some kind of, we haven't talked at all about things like VMS or like the radar feedback signs. There are some other, if speeding is an issue, that's one thing that is commonly done. With this board's, with your concurrence for those more limited countermeasures, I think DPW, and we'd have to confirm with Dan, and maybe Kurt, you had part of this conversation with Dan. I don't think Dan would disagree with the placement of some of those, in roadway countermeasures. I think, it does place a cost burden when you go to maintain stuff. And it's not clear for for what's the benefit, I think, but maybe, Kurt, to satisfy your and the board's desire to see something sooner, we go that route, and then, knowing with the speed humps or some other, maybe we do a little bit more searching for other types of countermeasures up there, and present that to the board and to DPW. And that way we have that. And then Nick did bring up the GEIS fees, and that did, whatever the solution on Route 4 is, it's going to involve earmarks, we're going to need, bypass roads, more lanes, more roundabouts. So there's larger solutions that are going to need to occur that I think would pick up, the Thompson Hill issue, or at least address substantial parts of it.
Okay, so we address with short-term measures and then figure out the long-term solution through the Route 4 corridor study. Is that?
The solution, the long-term solution is kind of the problem right now, because it just costs too much. As when the Bonaccio group, when we looked at what that would cost to drop a road to the traffic signal, you have to relocate the town's 30-inch water line. I mean, it was going to be a multi-million-dollar project. So, it may work with the combination of multiple developers involved, and some kind of agreement to fund all, some of these major projects. But yeah, I think what we've heard here too is the Carver Court team is really not willing to bear that cost. I don't know what a cul-de-sac would cost. I think the main issue is plow turnaround out there. When I talked with Dan about this, so I don't know how that would, if there's some more limited way and it doesn't involve a cul-de-sac, I don't know. I don't know what that would look like, but plow turnaround, I think, is the biggest issue. But yeah, I don't know, Matt. I mean, that's, when Dan and I and Anna spoke, it was, the solution we would offer is the solution we can't offer, which is the long-term stuff, because it just costs so much money,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think.
Go ahead.
I think those the speed limit signs you're talking about, I think those are probably more effective than a speed bump. I take your radar and tell you how fast you're going. I don't know what we do. I mean, aside from closing the road down, I don't know how you avoid people cutting through.
I mean, one of the things too, and maybe this is something, Don, you and your team can look at is, and we can do it, but, put those signs, no through traffic at both ends that, Don, you said you're willing to. And then what is the experience of other police departments, enforcing on that? Like, to my mind, if we had, if some of this, Kurt might also, and some, some of the, might also redound on the residents of Thompson Hill, right? Because to understand repeat cut through traffic is you're gonna have some repeat people who just do that over. I used to go to, I used to travel on Wolf Road and make a left from Sand Creek. There would be the same Cadillac with the same college stickers, all Ivy Leagues, make a left at that intersection into illegally beyond the pork chop into the Starbucks at that intersection every morning. Like I'd see them do it every morning. You know, you're going to have the same plates. You're going to have, you know, I mean, I wonder if there aren't some automated, you know, we enforce on red light running and speed limits in an automated way. I think that might be an act of the legislature. I don't know if towns are doing that. I think it's just cities. But, you know, I mean, we have cameras up on the roads right now, license plate readers, you know, I mean, if it is a repeat thing, you know, and if there is, I just don't know. There must be other strategies that for enforcement, because that seems like one of the weak links. I just don't know what they are.
So Kurt, are you amenable to going with short-term mitigation? Well, Adam, what's the time frame of the Route 4 corridor study? I think that's important to know.
There's contract negotiations right now. I would expect next few months we would kick it off. Study is, contract negotiations have been ongoing since the end of since December. So you know, it's short term, we're going to have a contract in place. We're going to start. I think the schedule was about a year or so. So it's, you know, it's not tomorrow, but it you know, a year is pretty reasonable.
So construction of this project is 24 months, right? So Route 4 corridor study is 1 year, and that lines you up then to apply for money to implement, right?
Yeah, one of the challenges there is that the current, the TIP, the Transportation Improvement Program, is being updated right now, and we've already submitted, you know, the call for projects is done. So I think the next update would be, I think it's 3 years. So getting federal funding through the CDTC TIP update process, which is probably the shortest line, you know, it is a little bit further out, but there might be other money, other pots of money, other strategies we could use, you know.
Sure.
But if it's in a plan too, you know, say if DOT, they may do something of their own volition on Route 4, like they did the roundabout safety project recently. You know, if it's in our plan, they have to abide by it too, you know, so, or at least consider it. You know, so there's other sort of mechanisms that might come into play if that's in the plan too. So the plan, I think, will do a lot.
So can you look into what other measures are out there other than, you know, it doesn't sound like speed bumps are a great option.
Yeah, maybe Alana, you know, and she's the traffic expert on the call, but yeah, we can certainly do that.
Yeah, so speed humps do actually reduce cut through traffic. It is a proven countermeasure for that. So, you know, just don't just discount it out of hand.
So if you could provide some kind of something that backs that up, that shows it is proven, that would be extremely helpful, I think.
Sure.
Because sometimes we do talk in hypotheticals and, you know, what our impression of things are. So it'd be good to know if something's actually been studied. Because I personally have no idea.
No problem.
Okay, and then sidewalks, it sounds like you guys are good with doing sidewalks.
Correct.
Do we want to talk about specifically where?
I'd like to see it go all the way up Road 1.
We're in agreement with going all the way up Road 1.
And would that mean, I'm sorry.
No, I was gonna see if any, I was gonna go through the board, see if other people's opinions on that.
I was
Chris?
just, yeah.
Can you,
good.
or I'm sorry, it's Noreen. Can you clarify where Road 1 is? Again, I'm going to try to pull up the map, but does that go up to where, to the right-hand side of the development?
It's
Yeah, it's the main road that goes up through phase 1 all the way to the back end of phase 3.
Chris, do you have any opinion on the sidewalks?
Just in favor of them, as we've already discussed.
Noreen, any further comment on the sidewalk?
No, thank you.
Don,
I'm okay.
Kurt,
Yeah, no comment on the sidewalk.
John?
In terms of the sidewalks, if they go all the way up Route 1, or Road 1, I'm happy. That's good.
All right. Well, we got one thing squared away. So Adam, what does this mean about voting on this? I mean, I don't know, we have 45 days to vote on it, but it sounds like the traffic is still, how do we figure out traffic if we voted today?
Well,
Or
so
can we
let
not?
me, yeah, I think, one of the things, so as it's written, the first 13 plus conditions and under subconditions for number 13, here, I can put this on the screen too. Those are before the plat is filed, right? So one of those is providing a sewer report that's approved by the town designated engineer and DPW, for example. So one of the things we could do is, have the developer is going to need to come back in front of the board for final plat approval. So those 13 conditions are to get to final plat approval. So, it also is the planning board's option to hold another public hearing prior to, doing final plat approval. So, the preliminary plat is, is a key milestone, but it's not the end. And I think there's probably a way before we do preliminary plat or final plat to deal with the traffic. And there's still going to be some conversations back and forth, but between the town and the developers team and the planning board. And we could do presentations in the interim to keep the board up to speed. So I guess, and I would again kind of defer to Joe on the nuts and bolts of this, but I would say that, we could craft a condition tonight about the traffic, being satisfied prior to stamping the final plat and filing it, which would allow the developer to go in, do the trees, start site work at their own risk on a portion of the site on the section 1. But they wouldn't be able to sell any lots. The lots wouldn't be created until the plat is filed and they come back and get that approval from the board. The way we wrote this resolution too, we had it condition number 3 was that the preliminary plat be revised to show a sidewalk along Road 1. So, that we anticipated that and put that in there to kind of, highlight that change from the previous preliminary plat as well.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's up to the board to, decide how concrete they want this these traffic mitigation measures prior to voting on the preliminary plat. I don't get a vote. I mean, it's up to the board. You have 45 days to make a determination. I understand that the developer probably wants to get in there and, start site work. So, I mean, if that's something that the board wants to discuss on moving forward tonight, with some sort of resolution in terms of traffic mitigation to be figured out prior to the filing of the final plat, then we can discuss it.
So
And
let's
Joe,
ask it. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say too, the final plat for the first section, which section 1, would need to be filed within 180 calendar days of today.
Right. So I mean, that's
yeah.
a significant amount of time. That's about a half a year. There's a lot of other work that needs to be done before the final plat can be filed. So there is a lot of time to work through things if the board feels comfortable with everything else. But like I said, I'll defer to the board whether they feel comfortable on moving forward with any kind of resolution tonight.
So we'll go through and ask. Kurt, do you want to wait, or do you feel comfortable voting and waiting on the final plat?
What was that? Repeat that, would you?
Would you feel comfortable voting tonight and working out the traffic before the final plat? Or do you want to wait until a later meeting to vote on the preliminary?
I guess I would do, okay, so with so if we okay the preliminary, they can start to do some of their work, but we would still.
Can't sell any lots until we approve the final plat. And there's 180 days there would be 180 days from today for that to happen.
180 days from today for the final,
Yeah, and then there can be two 90-day extensions.
after that, is that right? 290 days, okay, so another 6 months, okay. To work through that. I guess so, I guess that's fine.
Chris Horn.
I'm fine with it, with voting tonight.
Noreen.
Yes, I'm fine with voting tonight.
Don.
I just got a question. What are they gonna do if we vote now? Is this clean out the trees, or what exactly are they gonna get going?
Nick, can you answer that question?
We would definitely go in first week in March, and if not sooner, and get the trees down, because we've got a timeline with the DEC bat regulations. We have to have all the trees in our right of way and the stormwater areas down by the end of March. Ideally, with the open-endedness of the traffic, we'd like to, in the next 4 or 6 weeks, get that resolved while we're clearing, so that we have a clear path forward and know all the costs of the project. But we definitely have a tight timeline on the bat, so we'd like to get this passed tonight and then work diligently with VHB and Adam and your board to get a resolution of the traffic.
So are they gonna work
If we can't do the bats by the end of March, when can we start up again, Nick?
November, so we would lose another 7 months if we can't clear before the end of March. And then we'd lose another half a year of winter before we could do any site work. So that's why we pushed so hard to get these meetings lined up on this tight schedule. And we definitely appreciate you guys pulling them together. So we want to work to get the traffic behind us and get to work here.
So if they clear the trees, are they gonna do anything with the terrain?
I mean, we would we would clear the trees, build a construction entrance, and at that point, we would like to have the traffic done so that we know what we have to do and get the off-site sewer and any traffic work done, and then we would begin the site work. But we probably wouldn't do too much because, like Adam said, it's all at our own risk, and we don't know what the final traffic items would be until we get those signed off by your board.
So it's mainly the trees you're gonna start with then.
Yep. All right, John?
Yeah, I think I'm okay with moving ahead tonight as we've talked about, but there's a couple things I do want to say though. I think in terms of the traffic, I think we should properly just be looking at this housing development. And I think that's one of the reasons why maybe we can move ahead. But I got to say, I have a bigger concern here about Mannix Road and the traffic there. And I think I sometimes fear that we're kind of being nickeled and dimed, not necessarily by this project, but by projects in general. I think, you come in and there's one housing development, well, it's only a few more cars and it's just, it'll be all right, not much of an impact. And then maybe there's a little more development at the tech park and it's like one building and maybe 50 employees and 50 more cars and not so much. And then maybe it expands to the north and, it's more sort of stuff. So I'm a little bit concerned and nervous about that, but I think properly, I think we maybe have to just look at this one development and the housing study that was, or the traffic study that was produced, and so I'm okay to move ahead on the traffic thing tonight. Also, I asked earlier about the encroachments, and I think I got a pretty good answer. And certainly, this doesn't necessarily have to do anything with any plats at all, but I would like the town, I'd like Joe and Adam and Anna to take a look at the agreements just to make sure that it's kind of in a format that's suitable to the town and that sort of thing. But I'm ready to move ahead.
Okay. So
One thing I could do is share my screen with the draft resolution that you guys had in front of you, and we could just go through and redline it. You could vote on it as redlined.
well, we're just going to add one condition, right?
To the traffic. Do you?
Because you
John?
already took care of the sidewalks already.
Yes.
The sewer, I think you and I have talked about that. You guys are on top of that.
Do you, and John's other concern about those agreements?
Oh,
where-
yep. Sorry. Good point. So we'll add two conditions, right? So yeah, pull it up and just go to that section and we'll add those two conditions.
Yeah, so this is the, that's the sidewalks. We'll put it down here. That, and this is where Joe usually.
Be developed and approved by,
Submitted.
yeah. We see. Planning Board, DPW, and Planning and Zoning Department. Does that work for everyone?
Traffic mitigation plan for, we want to put some bounds on that.
Yeah, it's really Thompson Hill we're talking about, right?
We could say revised. Be developed, including specific
Impacts. in Thompson Hill.
which address, including an analysis and recommendations, analysis of, does that work for you, Kurt?
Analysis, yeah, analysis, and recommendations, yes. Yeah.
For Thompson Hill Road?
And analysis, recommendations, and approval. Do we have to put the word approval in there?
It's submitted subject to planning board, Department of Public Works and Planning and Zoning Department approval.
Oh, thank you.
Revised, which includes. Do you want a background analysis of Thompson Hill Road as well included in there? Or is it implied?
Yeah, no, probably, yeah. I think it's implied, but where's the attorney?
Well, Kurt, if that's what you want, then be as specific as you want to be.
But it really should be, if I can just interject, an analysis of Thompson Hill Road as it relates to our development, right? Not the existing conditions.
Right.
Yeah, I would agree with that, Nick.
Yeah.
So
specific impacts from this, specific impacts as a result of the project or something, right?
So we kind of really need Alana to review her study and either adjust it or reaffirm it, and then take action based on that.
If I can actually pop in right now, based upon the trip generation anticipated at this site, this project is not going to be having a significant impact on Thompson Hill Road. There's just not enough traffic that would be leaving this site and heading specifically to the north.
So Alana, what about something like enhanced countermeasures? So I jumped in on you, Kurt.
I guess I don't, judging from what's going on now, I don't see how that statement can be made. And it's not just north, but it is also heading south, the other direction too. So it's bi-directional, you know.
Right, but what you're talking about is an existing condition based upon stuff that's happening there right now. This project is not going to be generating very much traffic, so is not specifically going to be having a significant quantifiable impact on the roadway. We could certainly look at it, and I can quantify those numbers and estimate what the maximum number would be, and I certainly will do that. But this project is not going to be the project that is breaking Thompson Hill Road.
I don't agree with that. It's an unwarranted.
So let's say that she will, because she can't do that work tonight while on this meeting. Why don't we put in the resolution that she will review all of the data and
for sure
how Carver Court will affect Thompson Hill Road. Is that fair?
Absolutely.
And then do you want to, I mean, I'm thinking if what we're talking about is enhanced, like an enhanced traffic mitigation plan for Thompson Hill Road be developed, even if the analysis, yeah.
Only if required based on the impacts of Carver Court, correct?
Well,
no, there's got to be something done. There's got to be some mitigation.
So why don't we put in the resolution that we have to review the impacts of Carver Court and then see what the results of that are?
And there will be mitigation actions.
We're proposing mitigation. We just need to see how much, if any, more we need to enhance that based on her revised study of the traffic.
In
'Cause
addition
we're already
to the
proposing
speed humps and the
humps
signs.
And signs.
Okay.
We're waiting for DPW on that. And if she comes back and finds that there's actually more impact, then we need to review what more mitigation we can provide.
All right, are we good with this condition?
I guess so.
Was there, and you know, we've got the subject to planning board approval too, so, you know, it's, is there, for John, your concern about the agreements, do we want that, the agreement language? And remind me, this is the agreements for the license in perpetuity if there isn't a lot line adjustment for those encroachments?
Yeah, I think he just wanted you, Anna, and Joe to review them, right? So it's.
Would it be, Joe, this is Don Z, would you feel more comfortable if we prepare a language in the declaration so that not only do the homeowners who buy in Carver Court are aware of it, as well as we notify reaffirm, because I don't know how many homes have sold, et cetera. And I doubt if any homes are sold at the subsequent buyers, but we notify it, we put it on the record in the county clerk's office, and we draft language. So it's.
Yeah, I think that would be a good idea, because there might be somebody who
I'll
buys
draft
it.
language for that, which would be in the declaration and bylaws. And then obviously we would provide notice to the adjoining property owner so that they have that. And it's on the county clerk's records. Because the licenses aren't recorded. In this case, we can make it permanently by putting it in the HOA document.
Yeah, it sounds good, Don. Thank you.
Let me say that my concern here is also, you know, preserving that, the open undeveloped space, so.
Which. Must include encroachment.
Permissions for encroachments.
Say that again?
Permissions for encroachment, permanent permission for the encroachments. If lot line adjustments aren't to take place.
So there is one encroachment too over that electrified horse fence area. You guys are gonna remove that, correct? Not to bring up another issue.
That's why I want to put it all in the HOA documents, and Joe and I could sit down and work that out.
Okay. So that at a minimum, okay, all right. And then John, I think to your point, what we would also want to do is that the preliminary plat be revised as follows. Maybe we just do A and to recalculate the amount of required open space area taking into account the loss of said open space due to, existing encroachments. Okay, is that, I'm thinking let's just, maybe we call the loss of said open space due to the footprint. I mean, we've got, what's not clear when I looked at that, like there's a pool and it had a deck, but there's probably trails going to the pool, and the shed is a shed, but it may have like a little, there may be other appurtenances on there that would sort of, maybe what to do would be to instead include a recalculated area with like proposed lot line adjustments, like what would make sense for a lot line adjustment to get rid of those encroachments, because there are shed requirements, setbacks and stuff like that. So would that work?
Well, that was my concern with wanting to look at the licenses, because, I mean, what does it allow the encroachers to do, and, how far back does it extend, that sort of thing. And, I'm not sure what you're referring to as footprint or whatever there, but yeah, there should be some sort of language. And I think if we just look at it and keeping in mind that we want to preserve that open undeveloped space, I think it'll be fine.
Okay.
So I think that covers it, right?
Yeah, so just those few changes. I am going to, the other change on here was, and Anna caught this, I think it was 52%, not 53. I think the acreage is right. And then there was one other, just quick. Approximately, hey, Brett, do you know how many linear feet of force main? We can modify that to, and
I can get that for you in 1 minute, Adam.
okay.
So Adam, I'm going to make a motion and just reference the changes, that we made changes to it, and then you can fill in once Brett gets you that number.
Okay. If that's good with Joe and you guys, yeah.
Yeah, it's okay with me to reference the posted resolution with the red line changes made at tonight's meeting.
All right, with that, I'm going to make a motion to conditionally approve preliminary plat and pre-construction for Carver Court Major 110 lot cluster subdivision based on the draft resolution posted to the town website with red line modifications made at this meeting to page 1, page 2, page 3, and page 4. Do I have a second? John Conway?
Roll call as follows, Chairman Maston,
Yes.
Mr. Bergman,
Yes.
Ms. Horn,
Yes.
Mr. Panton,
Yes.
Mr. Conway,
Yes.
Ms. Gill.
Yes.
Motion carried by 6-0 vote.
Brett, just hang on, please, so you can get that number to Adam.
Yeah, I've got it right now whenever he's ready.
Adam, you ready?
Shoot.
2,377 lineal feet.
What,
All right,
what size is that, Brett?
6 inch.
6 inch. The one other thing, is the development agreement. Does the board, with putting that on the agenda, what we had contemplated was the board would have a chance to look at it. It's a current draft. It still has a few rounds of review to get through. But that the board might entertain a motion to refer the draft as it was presented with any changes to the town board, for their consideration. One option might be to give the board some time with that, and we do that at the next meeting, but
Yeah, let's wait till the next meeting. Well, unless anyone thinks differently. I haven't really had a chance to dive into it myself. Does anyone think differently? All right. All right, well, thank you very much. Hopefully we see you guys sooner than later so we can hash out this traffic issue.
Thank you, everyone, very much for
Appreciate
your
your
time
time.
tonight
Thank you.
over the last couple of years. Thank you.
Bye now. Thanks.
Next, we have 2123 Benoit, 416 418 Hayes Road. This is just to schedule a public hearing. This is a project a while back I did the zoning referral for, and the ZBA approved it last night. So we just need to schedule a public hearing for the subdivision. Any comments or questions? Chris? No. Noreen? No. Kurt?
No.
Don? John?
Nope, I'm good.
All right, I'll make a motion to schedule a public hearing for Benoit Major 2-lot subdivision. Town of East Scrimmage Planning Board hereby schedules a public hearing for February 23rd, 2022, either remotely via Zoom or at East Scrimmage Town Hall at 7 p.m. Do I have a second?
Second,
Second by Ms. Horn.
Roll call as follows, Chairman Maston,
Yes.
Mr. Bergman,
Yes.
Ms. Horn,
yes.
Mr. Panton,
Yes.
Mr. Conway,
Yes.
Ms. Gill,
Yes.
motion carried by 6-0 vote.
Next, we have 2201 C&T East Greenwich LLC, 590 Columbia Turnpike. We got Steve.
Yes, can you guys hear me?
Yep.
So basically just a brief update. We have been working with Adam and Allison and Tyler Culverson and Tom Tama, who is the applicant owner of 590 Columbia Turnpike, which is a self-storage place. So there's basically just a few notes that were added onto the plan since the last time. I think it was only 2 weeks ago that we were in front of the board. So in essence, let me just pull this closer, but.
We got it up on the screen.
Okay. So basically there was three changes that we had made to the plan. Probably the one change was we added 20 arborvitae alongside. It would be on the right side of that dark shade gray road. We added 20 arborvitae in that area right there that Anna's pointing to. We also amended the signage note a bit. We had it just called out as a proposed 4-foot by 8-foot sign for self-storage, but we did add on there that whatever ends up getting built there needs to be in conformance to the town sign code. So we did add that note as well for that small sign that would be put again to the top right side of the paved access road. And then we added one further note that just said, like, where we're making that connection point to the road that will be built as part of Town Center Phase 1 is just the note that calls out that the grading and drainage in that area will be, will blend to the plans that were approved by Hart Engineering, which was on the grading plan sheet C110. So in essence, those were the three modifications that we had made to this plan. And certainly if any board members or planning or zoning has any questions on this, we're happy to further modify the plans.
Adam, was there anything else to modify? I know we talked about a few things. Did Steve address them all?
So there was So, yeah, Anna, do you have, I think we talked about, I think you were more involved in this, Anna. You could speak more intelligently than I can. Even, and, yeah.
Accurate at this time of night about speaking.
I was just gonna say, yeah.
We had a discussion ongoing today regarding something that was brought up by a resident on this property, about this property, that came out of the ZBA interpretation that is still ongoing, correct? That wasn't at last night's meeting. So following a previous ZBA discussion, a resident pointed out or asked for more information about an existing gravel area that's to the left of the dark gray. Yeah, Adam's pointing to it now. So that in that area, there appears to be existing gravel. So the question was whether the gravel had been used for outdoor storage. We confirmed with the Building and Codes Department, Kevin Hitchcock, that a previous violation that had been sent for outdoor storage was not related to that gravel area. So the question had been, why isn't the gravel shown on the plan, basically? So we confirmed that that's outside the existing fence, as you can see on the sketch plan, and has not been used for outdoor storage previously. So that was an issue that was kind of ongoing for discussion today, that I think has been kind of mostly cleared up. We can certainly go into it more. The other question, I believe, Adam, that you brought up earlier today is regarding timing of maintaining access to the site in conjunction with the town center development. So as town center construction gets underway, how is site access maintained, and how does that look when it's, you know, going through an active construction site? I think that was one thing we hadn't really discussed yet.
So based on this site plan, are you guys satisfied?
I think
I'll let Adam answer that.
I think it would be good to show the existing conditions. So show that gravel area. And Steve, I think when I looked at the SWIP for town center, you guys like we're not adding any new impervious here, really. It's just converting existing. And B, that this was included in the town center drainage calculations, so, and you could correct, jump in, Steve. But I think from a drainage standpoint, there shouldn't be any issues with this. And I think our TDE had recommended showing the proposed grading on here as well. Yeah, I think, and we got a copy of the easements and stuff, so that all, that we've got what we need there, and I think that stuff looks fine. And that's how some of this arborvitae landscaping discussion came out. Because I think, Steve, there are existing arborvitae's kind of down here that you guys would have to be removing, and you had committed to doing that on the in the easement for the relocation, but it wasn't shown on here, so we were kind of curious because it was landscaping. So now you're showing it after having touch base with the owner and that type of thing.
And that is correct, Adam. That's the trees came from alongside the existing road. So we were transplanting 20 of them. So that's how the arborvitae's came about. You are correct. The SWIP does cover that drainage where, the building, the parking lot, the gravel, the new crusher run, because that all drains onto our property. So that was calculated into our SWIP. And we can certainly add some grading, grading contour onto that paved road, because literally probably from our road to the parking lot in front of self-storage, it's like almost flat. There might be a foot or two there. So we could add a contour. I don't think it'd be two contours because I don't think it changes enough. So, but we can put some elevations on that.
Steve, I'm going to add a condition too that the site plan be modified to include the gravel area at the west side of the parcel.
correct. Okay, perfect. Whatever comments you guys come up with, we'll make those, honestly, we'll make them tomorrow or Friday and shoot that right back to you.
So let me just go through the board. If there's any comments or questions. Ms. Horn, comments, questions?
Yep, good.
Maureen,
No, thank you.
John,
I'm okay.
Kurt,
No questions.
John?
I wonder if I could ask to have that, the sign clarified again, Steve. What are you doing with the sign?
So basically, John, it's a sign being put on the corner of that property. And also we added a note to, because I think at the last meeting, we had mentioned that we were taking the sign that exists out on 9 and 20 right now and moving it here. It's very
Yeah.
important, however, whatever gets installed there meets the town code. And there were some discussions that current sign that exists on 9 and 20 now doesn't meet town code. So in reality, we can't really just simply say, hey, we're gonna move it here, because we would be in violation of town code. So when the applicant comes in, whatever sign, we just need to make sure we're gonna meet town code with that.
So there'll be no sign on 9 and 20?
The sign on 9 and 20 for the self-storage, John, that sign, so let me say this, the sign that's on the side is being dismantled, so that won't be there. And when I say the side, that is closest to Starbucks or closest to Hannaford Plaza. So that sign is going to disappear.
Okay.
There is an agreement with self-storage that on the larger sign that Town Center builds out front, that they have a certain, I don't know if it's 32 square feet or 16 square feet. So,
That's one of those monument signs that would list everybody, sort of?
that is correct. And again, that's going to be done according to the PDD guidelines for signage. So,
Okay.
so that's correct. So self-storage will have a call out there, but then as people pull in and travel across that new access road, they'll have a sign at their facility as well. And that's what that 4x8 sign is.
And no sign on the building?
On self-storage, no.
Okay.
What I guess, John, I just want to say, I don't think there's anything that exists there today. So there's no new signs being proposed.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
You good, John?
Good, thank you.
Okay, with that, I'll make a motion for conditional approval. Adam, was this posted on the website?
I think it should, yeah, it should have been.
I'll make a motion for conditional approval for C&T East Greenwich LLC 590 Columbia Turnpike with the addition of a condition that the site plan be modified to include the gravel area at the west side of the parcel. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Conway.
Roll call as follows. Chairman Maston,
Yes.
Mr. Bergman,
Yes.
Ms. Horn,
Yes.
Mr. Panton,
Yes.
Mr. Conway,
Yes.
Ms. Gill.
Yes.
Motion carried by 6-0 vote.
Thanks for staying with us, Steve. Surprised you
No
stayed
worries.
with.
Thank you, guys. Take care.
Next, we have review and approval of meeting minutes. Not vote. Can anyone else not vote?
No, just you.
Any other comments or questions, or any comments or questions on the minutes? All right, I'll make a motion to approve the January 26, 2022 minutes.
Second.
Second by Ms. Horn.
Roll call as follows. Chairman Maston,
Abstain.
Mr. Bergman,
Yes.
Ms. Horn,
Yes.
Mr. Panton,
Yes.
Mr. Conway,
Yes.
Ms. Gill.
Yes.
Motion carried by 5-0-1 vote.
10:19. This might be a record for us. So just one last thing. Can folks just shoot me a note when you get a chance to, just let me know your feelings on in-person meetings or Zoom meetings if you're comfortable doing in person. I personally prefer in person. I think they're a little more efficient, but if you're not comfortable, by all means, or send me a note either way, just so we get a consensus there and we can get direction on which way to go.
I'm kind of preferring Zoom right now.
What's that?
I'm preferring Zoom right now,
Okay.
but either way, I can go.
All right. think that's it. Everyone have a good night. I'll make a motion to close the meeting. All in
Yeah.
favor? I got it right? Thanks, Joe. Everyone have a good night.
All right, thank
Good night, everyone.
Bye.
Right.
Bye.